One fine day, my mother told the main character that if she had not existed, she would not have lived this way now. The woman claims that she looks like this, but in fact she was a lady from an aristocratic family. The lady with long hair says that her father got into a lot of debt and was engaged in trade, and then sailed away on a ship. She suggests that if he had returned, they would not have been kicked out of their lands. The main character's mother finishes the bottle and says that she would not live in such poor streets, but would remarry and start a new life. And again she repeats that if only she had not had a daughter, then everything would have worked out. Hearing this, the little girl says that her mother is right, and she thinks so too. The main character reflects on the fact that her mother is the most beautiful in the world, and she has golden-colored hair that flows like the sun, and bright blue eyes like cornflower. The girl knows that her mother has neat facial features and snow-white skin like milk, and always and everywhere she looks like a fairy, and that's why she's proud of her mother. The little lady realizes that her mother lives on such a poor street, but she was originally a noble, and she is the only one of all the people I know who can write and read. Lyrica thinks that her mother behaves this way because she's very tormented by this. The daughter always brought her mother home after she got drunk and fell wherever. The main character knew that her mother was angry with her every night, and she spent the money she earned on alcohol. However, the girl thought that this would all finally end when her father returned and everything would change. The girl imagined that when her dad returned, he brought the money he earned. And he also understood that his daughter had to endure a lot of suffering during this time, and therefore invites her to live together. The main character imagines that they are rich at this time. She remembered what she had forgotten, thought about something else, and her hand stopped moving. Lyrica understands that she is working now, and will continue to do so until the day when her mother starts smiling again, and she will protect her. At the end of the working day, the girl summed up that she had worked hard today. The gentleman says that she is very useful because she is neat and does not indulge in petty thefts, and then he gives her a coin and asks her to keep trying. The girl claims that work is trust and then invites him to trust her with work in the future. The owner looked at the girl and said that she was very persistent, and it would be good if his child was at least half like her. And then he reports that the young lady did a good job. The main character says that work is about trust, and she once learned these words from an uncle who shines shoes, and therefore she keeps them in her heart and applies them in any work, and this helps her a lot. Walking down the street, the girl thought that she needed to buy bread, and at that time she smelled a delicious smell, and thought that it had just been taken out of the oven, and the bread looked soft and hot and probably delicious. The little lady reflects that she would like to bite into this hot bread so that it fills her entire mouth, and she would also like to be beaten by him until her stomach hurts at least once. Lyrica thought that today she received a large copper coin, and with it she could buy a whole baguette of bread. And at this time, she remembers that last month she did not pay her housing debt. The man asks how long they are going to take his money. Mom says that she doesn't have money to give to someone like him and then tells him to get lost. The man heard this and became angry and attacked the lady with his fists. At this time, the main character realized that her mother was in danger, and she stood in front of her, and then she got punched in the face. The impact caused the little lady to fall, and blood flowed from her mouth. When the mother saw the girl, she screamed that he was beating people and said that he would call the security. At this time, Lyrica thought that she was in heaven and everything was filled with notes. And then they remember that they have to pay rent this month. And she turns to the saleswoman and asks her to cut off and sell her half of the bread. The main character wonders if her mother is still sleeping and then reports that she has returned. And when the girl entered the room, she saw her mother on the bed and thought that she was still sleeping. And then she quietly went to her savings and thought about how well her secret pantry had chewed. Lyrica took the silver coin and thought that she needed to hide it better so that her mother wouldn't see it. After all, with the money she earned today, she will someday buy a chicken with this silver coin and raise chickens. The main character thinks that when these chickens become hens, she will buy a goat and then also a cow. And after that, he will buy a horse, and the girl dreams that she will become rich. At this time, my mother lying on the bed begins to scream, and the girl doesn't realize what happened to her and then asks if she's okay. The woman grabbed her daughter's hand, and at that time, the main character thought that her eyes were not focused, and she should make sure that her mother drank in moderation. After all, if you indulge in alcohol too much, your head will go crazy, and life actually comes to an end. Mom asks the girl in surprise where she is now. And then the daughter asks if she recognizes her lyrics, and she claims that this is their house, and asks if she remembers. The woman does not understand how alive her daughter is, and then she says in surprise that she has become younger, and she wonders how old Lyrica is now. The little girl reports that she is 8 years old. Hearing this, the woman screams that it can't be, and then says that her head has become strange and this can't be. Then she looked at the window and said that this was a poor area. At this time, the main character thought that everything was fine with her mother and she just had a bad dream. And now she's too excited, so if she goes, she might hit her. The girl understands that she needs to wait until she calms down. Lyrica turns to her mother and says that she was worried and therefore asks her to calm down, and at that time she thought that her mother might hit her. The woman turns to her daughter and says that she is her precious Lyrica, and then she enthusiastically claims that she is actually alive and hugs her daughter. The lady says that she is very sorry, and at this time the main character does not understand why her mother suddenly behaves this way. The woman claims that it is all her fault because she is too stupid. She reports that the mother was very stupid and did not know how dear her daughter was to her. Hearing this, the main character reflects on the fact that her mother cannot say such words to her. And at that time, I thought that this was a dream. Mom says that she loves her daughter and hugs her again, and then she claims that Lyrica is her treasure. The little lady thinks that this can't be true, and when she wakes up, she will be even sadder. The lady talks about how she is her precious child, and the girl assures herself that this is a dream, and suddenly tears flow out of her eyes. Mom says that she is her favorite child and she loves her, and then she kisses the girl and says that it is true. Lyrica understands that this is not a dream, and it turns out to be so good to be in her mother's arms. The main character does not understand what to do if her mother changes again, if she becomes the same again as before. A woman asks her daughter what date it is today. The girl replies that the year 480th is the month of young shoots, the 15th. Hearing this, Mom says that there will soon be a ball in the imperial palace. And then she says that she needs no matter what to go to that ball and meet with His Majesty the Emperor. Mom knows that the Emperor is the top and the most important person with high status, and he is the one who made Lyrica and her mother look like dust. The woman says that she needs to get ready today and go tomorrow. However, she understands that there is only a chance today. Hearing this, the main character screams that it doesn't make any sense. And then she thought that she was mistaken when she thought that mother had changed. The daughter asks the woman how she can enter the ball in the imperial palace, and then she says that she will be turned away at the entrance, and she wonders what she will do if His Majesty eats her heart. Lyrica heard that the Emperor freezes those who are not to his liking. And at that time I thought that my mother felt bad in her head, and she didn't understand what to do. Mom says that she has a way to get inside, but she of course understands that it won't be possible to do it in this form. A woman is thinking about the fact that she needs to borrow suitable clothes from a pawn shop, and if she just decides to do this, then she can do the rest herself. Mom reports that she has no money and turns to her daughter. And then he asks you to believe Mommy just once. Lyrica understands that her mother's words are nonsense, and it's obvious that she won't even be able to enter the banquet hall. And the money lying around is a month's rent, and it needs to be paid back soon. The main character reflects on the fact that she does not want to be beaten again. Mom strokes the girl's face and says that she understood everything, and if this is her opinion, then nothing can be done. And then he says that Mom will try her best for Lyri, and she says that she knows very well that Lyri will become a happy child, even without all this. The woman explains that it's still just Mom's greed, and she will do everything possible for the sake of her daughter, and if it works out, then as much as she wants. Mom hugs the girl and invites her to go to bed early today. The little lady takes the bread that she bought today and offers her mother something to eat, and then explains that she was full earlier and therefore everything is fine. Mom invites her daughter to eat bread together. And at this time, the main character understands that there is no difference that her mother says a little strange things, and she has changed a lot. Lyrica thought about how happy she felt today, and then she fell asleep. When the girl woke up, she did not see her mother near her and went to look for her. And then she noticed that her savings were gone, and her silver coin was gone, and her chickens would also be gone. Lyrica understood that this was too much, and that day she hated her mother for the first time. The main character understands that she does not have a single coin in her hands, and therefore she cannot take a break from work. But even so, she does not want to return home. The little lady reflects on the fact that she cannot always rely on her father. Suddenly, she saw expensive-looking shoes, and she doesn't understand why this man came to her, and then she asks him to go away and leave her alone. An unfamiliar man turns to Lady Lyrica and says that he has come for her. At this time, the girl did not even realize that from that day, her destiny would completely change. Lyrica realizes that this is not the first time she has met a man who appears to be rich, and she remembers the man who threw her a silver coin so that she could buy herself something tasty. The main character reflects on the fact that a man has appeared who seems even richer than that gentleman. The man says that she was not at home, and therefore he looked for her for a very long time. The girl looked at him and thought that he had expensive-looking clothes. He also has good posture and seems like a significant person who almost never has to bow his head. The little lady excitedly asks if her mother has really done something wrong. The stranger calms the girl down and says that her mother asked him to bring her to her, and she will hear the details when she arrives at the place, and he is only carrying out instructions. The guy reports that they better leave before no one sees them. Lyrics addresses a stranger and talks about how she shouldn't follow strangers. Hearing this, the man says that his name is Laub Wolf, and then claims that now they are no longer strangers. The girl asks what he wants from her, and he says that her mother is very sick because she had an accident and therefore asked him to bring her, and she is very persistent and looking for her daughter. Hearing this, the main character screams that her mother is in trouble, and she doesn't understand Mom hurt herself when she tried to enter the ball in the imperial palace. The little lady remembers that she prayed so much that nothing would happen to her, and she tried to behave well and thought that finally, even on these poor streets, nothing bad would happen to them. And she doesn't understand how this could happen. The girl screaming that she's already on her way, and then quickly gets into the carriage and screaming says that her mother's daughter Lyrica is already on her way, and then turns to the coachman and tells him to leave quickly. Laub turns to the little lady and says that you can't trust people so easily. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and then says that he said that her mother was injured. However, the man assures her that her mother is healthy. Lyrics at this time thought that the fighting ability of the girl of the head of the family from the street of the poor who was in a rage, and she thought that he was a deceiver. Laub understands that he needs to get out, but if he takes her down himself, she will probably scratch him. And it doesn't matter that if Lyrica hits him, she's so weak that if she suddenly hits him, she'll break something. The girl noticed that the place they came to did not look like a place of slave trade. The gentleman reports that this is a separate palace, one of the small palaces belonging to the imperial one, and then asks if she's ready to go out. Suddenly, the little lady heard her mother's voice calling her name, and then she saw her mother and ran up to her and hugged her. The woman asks her daughter for forgiveness and then asks if she was worried. The lyric suggests that this time she was actually angry. The lady with the blonde hair says that she knows this, and then explains that Mommy was terrible and did something bad, and then she makes excuses that she had no other ideas. My daughter says that she doesn't understand anything what it all means. Mom invites her to come inside and says that she will tell her everything. The woman thanks the gentleman for bringing her daughter. And at this time, the little lady noticed that an adult man was worshiping her mother. Mom decided to wash her daughter lying in the bathroom. The girl asks if they can use such an incredible place, and she wonders what happened to her mother. The woman explains that she attended a ball in the imperial palace and met His Majesty there. Hearing this, the main character thought that the highest nobility has a special skill, and the current emperor is a truly frightening person. He rips out children's hearts and eats them, and freezes people he doesn't like, thereby killing them. The daughter suggests that her mother be careful if she does not want her heart to be taken away. The woman assures him that everything is fine and then explains that the emperor is a rational person. After hearing this, girl does not understand how rationality and fear are connected. The mother puts the shoe on her foot and invites her daughter to try to stand up. At this time, the girl feels that she is very soft, and then she fed the girl. The woman reports that the day after tomorrow her mother will marry His Majesty the Emperor, and then he remembers that the secret penetration was successful, and she is also the first girl to hit the emperor. Mom explains to her daughter that this is an unusual marriage, and therefore only she will tell the secret. And in fact, this is a contract marriage. The girl asks her mother if she can do a good job, because this means that she has been assigned a job. Mom says that she thought her daughter would be more surprised. And at this time, the girl replies that this was enough and thought that if she had been more surprised, she would simply have died. Lyrics understands that all this now makes sense, and that the mother and the emperor fell in love with each other and got married is simply ridiculous. And if this is a marriage contract, then you can be calm. And most importantly, working on poor streets with an attitude of trust will not work. The girl reflects on the fact that they have been assigned a job, and even if the situation is not so simple, and she does not understand, why not say that it is so? However, she still can't believe that mother married His Majesty, and this means that she will become an empress. The little lady is sure that her mother is very beautiful, and be that as it may, a deal is a deal, and a contract is a contract, and she thinks that she should help her mother with her work. The girl asks what will happen to her. Then the woman explains that they agreed that she would become an adopted daughter, and therefore starting the day after tomorrow, she would be a princess. Hearing this, the main character thought that if there was no bread, then she could eat a bun. And she doesn't understand why princesses have such a strange image, but think that everything will be fine, and that means she's a contract princess. Lyreka wonders what kind of work the princess does and how long the contract is for. Mom says she thinks she's about 8 years old. And until His Highness the Crown Prince becomes an adult, and then emperor. The woman asks her daughter if she knows that the emperor is now occupying this position temporarily until his nephew, the crown prince, comes of age. At this time, the girl thought that this was some kind of complicated domestic history of the imperial family, because it is a known story that no one believes that he will return the throne. The daughter thinks that 8 years is a very long time, and by then, she will also have grown a lot. Mom invites her to live together in a beautiful house on a fairly sedate outskirts of the capital and grow a small garden. Hearing this, the girl began to wonder if she could really take possession of him. And during this time, she imagines herself watering the flowers. The woman assures the girl that they will still travel safely, and then he says that they agreed that she would receive an incredible amount of money. But for this, she should never tell anyone about everything, because this is a huge secret that under no circumstances should be revealed. The daughter tells her mother not to worry, and then assures her that she will never tell anyone even if she dies. The woman is confident that her daughter will do as she says. At this time, the main character thought that even though her mother had decided to do this, she still looked very scared. Lyreka tells her mother that everything is okay because she has her, and she suggests not to worry since her daughter will always be there and even protect her if necessary. When the girl said these words, she thought that everything was swimming before her eyes and that she felt like she was about to fall. At this time, there are rumors that because of such a sudden order that His Majesty will get married the day after tomorrow, this palace has turned upside down, because the hasty wedding with the empress from the poor streets is prepared in just 3 days. The aristocrat asks his friend if he thinks they could be left without guests. However, he assures that the spring balls are now taking place, and all the gentlemen have come to the capital from the provinces. The maid says that they were in such a hurry that the bride's dress was altered from a ready-made one, and she was surprised because it was the first time she had seen such a style. It was voluminous on the side of the butt. The older lady hearing this says that it is indecent, and the younger one objects and says that it was wonderful. The day after the wedding, an adoption ceremony was held, and this means that Lyreka is a princess. The aristocrats don't understand why they would generally agree to teach such a child, and say that the princess's etiquette teacher will be given the right to enter the palace of the sun. The surprised man says that this is a special opportunity that was given only to the highest nobility and then to very influential people, and any aristocrat can enter the palace of heaven. But the palace of the sun is different. After all, the most important thing is that His Majesty the Emperor lives there. The aristocrat says that all this time they have been choosing empresses from their families, but now they have put pressure, and he does not understand how they can make rootless empresses and princesses and give such scum the surname Takar. The Duke says that no matter what anyone says, Her Majesty the Empress is beautiful, and with such a face it was inevitable, and besides, she was incredibly skilled. The prince talks about how Lyra is like a princess, and she is the daughter of a weasel who became an empress in an instant. And he realizes how incredible this woman is, and he wants to meet her. And he is also interested in what will happen to the empress mother and her daughter next. The maid turns to Princess Lyrica and says that Her Majesty the Empress conveys that she can meet with her today. The main character understands that the next day of the wedding ceremony was very chaotic, and she received a new name, and she discarded the original surname Vans and received the surname of the imperial family Takar. The girl understands that she must bow her head to the emperor and empress and the crown prince, to these three people. They also say that she has a very high position, but she still does not feel that this is reality. Lyrica thought that she had become a princess, and it was as if she was roasting nuts on a fire caused by lightning. Since the main character suddenly became a princess, she learns the rules of etiquette every day, and that's why she has no free time except the morning. But it's so strange. Every time he goes to meet his mother, the maid reports that her mother is sleeping, and she is tired and also sleeps. And the next day too, the main character reflects on the fact that after the wedding, she was never able to meet her mother. But today, finally, Lyrica saw the most beautiful and graceful mother in the world. The girl noticed that her mother had lost too much weight, and then asks if she's okay. The woman replies that she feels fine, and then says that she heard that her daughter was learning etiquette all this time, and asks if it was hard. The daughter explains that Lady Glendoran diligently teaches her, and also said that she has good results because she was worried about her origin, but she is not absent-minded and reserved, and also does not use foul language. And even on the contrary, a person is excellent when he learns from another person. The girl tells her mother that the teacher assures her that she is too energetic and also very cute. The daughter asks her mother if she is really okay because she sees her very tired. She also wonders if she sleeps well at night. This woman smiled upon hearing, and then said that she almost couldn't sleep at night. However, her daughter assures her that she should sleep well. The woman tells her not to worry, as her mother is fine. When Lyrica left her mother's room, she said that she did not understand why her mother was so tired. When the maids heard this, they smiled and said that the emperor tortures her every night. And then they tell the girl what she told her is a secret. The little lady thought that the emperor tortured her mother every night, and therefore he was still a terrible person. My daughter wonders if every night he beats his mother or mocks her, and maybe they do wrestling or backdoor stuff. The main character thinks that she must do something, and does not understand what she can do. Suddenly, Lyrica sees the butler and asks if she can ask for an audience with the emperor. When the servant left the emperor's office, he said that His Majesty said that he now has time, and that's why she should immediately go to him. At this time, the main character thought that she should go forward and everything is fine, and everything is fine. Standing in front of His Majesty's door, the girl remembers that the teacher told her that when she visits Her Majesty the Emperor, she should not look him in the face before greeting him. The princess should only bow to the Emperor, Empress, and Crown Prince, and only to these three people. And this means that she must curtsy to His Majesty the Emperor. The Emperor asks what happened, and the girl explains that she came because she had a request. And at that time, I thought that she should not be afraid, because she could. After all, she is a brilliant and brave Lyrica. The main character screaming turns to His Majesty and asks him to stop harassing her mother every night. And then she explains that her mother can't even get up in the morning, and it seems to her that she needs to sleep properly at night. Lyrica asks the emperor to stop torturing her. However, the gentleman objects and says that he is sure that her mother said that she liked it. At this time, the girl does not understand why everyone started clearing their throats. And I thought that maybe I just hadn't studied it yet, but coughing during the emperor's speech is good manners. Suddenly the girl heard loud laughter, and I thought that I don't know. Maybe she did something wrong and was mistaken about something. At this time, a man approaches Lyrica and says that this fool is laughing at her and therefore suggests not to worry since she is a brave princess. And he explains that His Majesty will no longer torture Her Majesty the Empress every night. Hearing this, the main character does not understand who these people are, since she only noticed them now. The girl looked at the man and thought that he was helping with the documents, and the other man was a knight. The man says that his name is Wrath, and he is the chancellor of this country, and his friend's name is Tang, and he is the commander of the Imperial Guard. Hearing this, the main character thought that they were great people, and then she said that she must leave. And at that time she thought that her dilemma was destroyed, and it seemed that she could not stay here. The emperor heard this and asks why she is leaving and then offers to go to him. When the girl heard his call, she was very surprised, and he claims that they will eat her. At this time, the girl thought that the princess was under contract to work, and this was trust. His Majesty takes the girl and sits her on his lap, and then asks if it's a candy wrapper, since he can only hear the rustling clothes but there is no weight. The emperor says that her mother said that she loved her daughter very much, but she starved her and asks about it. The girl screaming answers that she was not hungry and does not understand how he can insult her mother. However, His Majesty wonders why she is so light and asks her about it. The emperor claims that she would probably fall if he pushed her with his finger, and then suggests that she watch. However, the girl claims that her body is strong, and then she falls to the floor from 2 touches of the emperor's fingers. Seeing this, the chancellor screaming turns to His Majesty and asks how he could do this. The knight lifts the girl up and says that the princess is as light as a sugar snack, and then asks if Her Highness is okay. Wrath examined the girl and said that her forehead was red and the back of her head was not swollen, and he asks if it hurts her when he touches her. The lyrics say that everything is all right. The emperor explains that the child said that he was strong, and when he does this to Atel, then everything is fine with him. The knight says that His Highness the Crown Prince is a man, and moreover he is stronger than the girl. The emperor explains that this is the first time he has had a daughter and then apologizes. And he also orders to call the doctor and bring snacks such that the princess will like it. The butlers reflect on the fact that while everyone else is wondering how to treat the princess, the doctor examines the girl and asks where she hit herself. And at that time, the girl thought that the 3 most influential people in the country had gathered in this office and were taking care of her alone. And she understands that the princess's daily life will change. And in the end, the best support in the palace is the emperor. Lyrica asks His Majesty if he will eat with her, and he suggests that the princess will give these sweets, and therefore she can eat them calmly. At this time, the main character remembers that last week, she was only looking at white bread in the bakery, and today she has much better food. At this time, the chancellor was watching her, and said that he believes that resolving issues with sweets is a bit low level, and in the current situation, it is suitable. The emperor says that in fact, he did not remember his daughter at all. Now it seems that he will never be able to forget about her, because it turns out there is such a thing in the world. His Majesty wonders where else in the world one can find such effective appearances, and he also thought that the girl was nothing like her mother, but their eyes were similar. The girl reports that she is leaving, and at this time the chancellor says that he would like to ask her something. Wrath asks if her mother said that His Majesty tortures the empress every night. Hearing this, the main character thought that they might misunderstand this and think that her mother told her to do something with her help. And then she objects and says that she came herself, and her mother doesn't even know about it. The chancellor talks about how he will ask her a slightly different question then, and then asks if she likes the way they live now. Wrath turns to His Majesty and asks what he thinks about making Brinsol the princess's personal maid, and the emperor agrees with him. At this time, the main character thought that Rat, although he looks gentle, perhaps he is an unkind person, because among high-ranking people, there are few kind ones, and they are adamant and very cold at times. The butler reports that he can see off Her Highness the princess. Hearing this, she objects and says that everything is fine and she can go back alone. The Rizar says that this will not work because the princess cannot be forced to go alone. And then he says that he can send a maid with the idea, but today he himself will go with her, and at the same time from work and shirk a little. Tang takes the little lady on his shoulder, and at this time she doesn't understand what's going on, but fortunately she put on several layers of underwear. The girl says that she is already 8 years old and big. The knight invites the servant to take him to the princess's room. At this time, Lyrica thought that she was very ashamed, and she doesn't understand whether this is possible at all, and she thought that perhaps the princess always moves like this. The girl remembers the teacher's words that she is a princess and should always behave appropriately. Lyrica asks that if this is the wolf family, then he is probably with the knight. The man replies that he is also from his family and thinks he is some kind of second cousin. The main character says that she thought so, and then asks him to tell him that she is very sorry that she spoke too threateningly, and he explains that when he brought her to the palace, she thought that Laub wanted to kidnap her. The knight heard this and laughed, and he says that even if she said something threatening, he didn't care, but he would pass it on. The girl said goodbye to the knight and thought that the first half of the day had been really long, and she was tired, and she needed to rest before the etiquette lessons began. And she also remembers that the breaded bread and chocolate were delicious, and she didn't think that this dark liquid would be so cool. Lyrica looked out the window, and it turns out that the garden is very clearly visible from her side, and that's why she wants to go out for a while. But suddenly a woman enters her room and says that her name is Bryn Sol, and today she is her personal maid. The maid reports that an order has been received from His Majesty to change her room, and all the things will be carried by the servants, and therefore she should not worry. Bryn points to the room and says that a little earlier it was a passer-by, and the door on the right is the living room. Next to it is the bathroom, and she asks if the princess likes the new room, and it is next to the Empress's chambers. The little lady replies that she really likes it, because she can see the whole garden from the window and can go out there. The maid says that she is glad that Her Highness likes her, and this room is called the White Dragon Room, and then asks if she knows that His Majesty the first Emperor Takara was a dragon. The maid says that all the rooms of the ruling family members in the Palace of the Sun are called dragons in the Black Dragon's room, and this room is opposite. The girl thought that she was wondering what the last room was called. If she asks about it, Bryn will most likely be in a difficult position, and therefore she will not ask. And she thinks that there was no dragon in the name of that room. The maid says that Her Majesty the Empress's room has always been called the Silver Dragon Room, and she will appear as soon as she climbs the stairs. Then Lyrica ran to her mother, and when she saw her, she said that the girl was cute and quickly offered to go to her. At this time, the main character thought that the emperor would no longer torture her mother, and therefore she thought that she could meet with her every morning. And now she doesn't worry about anything. The woman says that she heard that her daughter went to see His Majesty today. The girl asks in surprise how she knows about this, and her mother replies that he came to her. The lady says that the daughter is doing well for standing up for her mother, but she doesn't need to take risks. And then he reports that Mom was very scared when she heard about it. The girl thought that she was ready to do anything for her mother, and therefore the emperor did not seem such a terrible person. The woman says that she did this because she was worried about her, and she wouldn't say that because she's also worried about her Lyri. Mother says that she cannot go forward to see His Majesty whenever she pleases. And at this time, the main character thought that he still didn't seem like a bad person to her. But Mom insists that it is dangerous and cannot be trusted because he treated her a little affectionately. The woman explains that the emperor is a man who can wring her neck with a smile on his face, and then asks if she understood. Mom says that she doesn't want to scare her, but still suggests being careful. And then she asks what they will do today, and she wonders if her daughter is spending today with her mommy. Lyrica says that today she has etiquette lessons. Bryn heard this and apologizes for interfering in their conversation, and then reports that the etiquette teacher, Lady Glendorin, said that Her Highness should not come to the palace today because she injured her forehead. The maid reports that his name is Bryn Sol, and she has been appointed the new personal maid of Her Highness, the princess. When the Empress heard this, she thought that the person was from the Sol clan, and this means that her daughter is smart, and she grabs her place with tenacious hands. The Sol family is a clan primarily serving the imperial Takar family, and the clan which has become infinitely proud and for serving them. Mother assumes that if their direct relative Bryn Sol was appointed as her personal maid, this means that her adopted daughter will be treated as a real member of the imperial family. The woman thought that as soon as she took over the place of the Empress, she would deal with the main maid until she took over the inside of the palace. Lyrica would stay in the guest room, and she would not be able to interfere in the appointment of Lyra's servants or teachers, and she thought the emperor would not even take care of such things. The empress understands that there are a lot of people who did not accept her as empress and want to kill her. And at that time I thought that the emperor himself took a step towards Lyrica, and all because she was too sweet, and this proved that even a dragon could fall before her. Mother reflects on the fact that even if this is the case, she will not be able to forgive anyone who even lays a finger on her daughter. And then she asks why her baby is so cute, and why she is so beautiful and wonderful. The woman wonders why she didn't know about this in the past, and then hugs her daughter and says that she loves her. At this time, the main character thought that she did not understand why her mother laughed from time to time, as if she were crying. And then she says that she loves her mother too. The lady says that from now on, the fringed dress that Her Majesty wore to the wedding will be very popular, and it is already capturing the trends of noble society. Hearing this, the main character thought that she was so happy that she couldn't believe it, and Mom again says that she loves her. The main character reflects that she's even scared, but that's why she thinks she needs to listen to her mother, but doesn't understand why she's here again. Sitting in the emperor's office, Lyrica remembers her mother's words that he is a terrible person, and he can twist her head with a smile on his face. At this time, servants bring various goodies into His Majesty's office, and the little lady understands that the changing sweets every day are too tasty. Although it seems that Mother was amazed and quarreled with the emperor, apparently he won, and judging by the fact that now she says almost nothing, the emperor looks at the princess and does not understand why she is not growing. Hearing this, the servant asks what he is talking about. His Majesty explains that he is talking about the baby and does not understand why she is not growing because he feeds her well. But she is not getting any bigger. The Chancellor explains to the Emperor that not even 10 days have passed. His Majesty says that he has seen Atul grow every day, and he wonders if maybe she has some kind of illness after all. Rath claims that the princess is not even Takar not Bharat, and she is not from the nobility. Hearing this, the main character screaming says that she does not have any illness and is strong, and then explains that she's growing well because Bryn said she couldn't make bigger clothes. The lyrics report that she is also Takar, even though she is adopted under a contract. And at this time, the main character understands that if she leaves this important place, the contract will be useless. At this time, the emperor thought that after what had been said, she really seemed shabby to him. And then she remembers how she came and how she is now. His Majesty asks the girl if she shouldn't be growing about 10 centimeters a week. Hearing this, the main character screaming asks, "Who is growing like that?" And then she assures that no one has such growth in a week. The emperor reports that he grew up like this. The little lady talks about how he's not human, and that's why he had it that way. Hearing this, His Majesty asks, "Who said that?" At this time, the main character thought that he was talking like that as if such things didn't mean anything. And in fact, these are not just words because they need to be answered properly. The princess says that the members of the imperial family are descendants of the dragon, and then explains that that is why His Majesty looks like a dragon, because Bryn said so, and the girl is sure that the emperor is the dragon. Rath reports that the princess said everything correctly, and then suggests that the non-human should not speak because he shouldn't. This may cause misunderstandings. The emperor asks what is wrong, and then he claims that everyone thinks so, and says that he has neither blood nor tears and that he is not human. Lyrica explains that she was very touched by the story, and it felt like a story from a long time ago. His Majesty thought that this weak and small girl who would die if he hit her with one finger was running towards him without any fear, but when he looked at her more closely, he thought that it couldn't be said that she had no fear at all, and that most likely she was afraid of him. The emperor realizes that despite all this, the little girl believes that he will not harm her, and he doesn't want to destroy this trust. His Majesty asks why he is the emperor. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and does not understand what he is talking about. The gentleman explains that she should call him Daddy, and at this time, he looks into her eyes, and he wonders what could happen because of these eyes. He agreed to the contract, and he also remembers that her mother offered him a contract marriage, and his subordinate said that His Majesty should quickly choose an empress, and this place should not be left empty. The emperor understands that people who cannot even look him in the eye will covet the position of the empress and tell him nonsense, and for him, this is disgusting. And he also remembers a woman with blonde hair who announced that she would marry him. And she also asked him to become a strong support for so that she could fulfill the duties of the empress for 8 years. His Majesty says that even if he says that he will become a support, then the emperor's capabilities are also limited, and noble society is a different battlefield. The woman says that she knows all this because foxes and flowers, snakes and wolves, and she will cope with them. And he understands that so far she has exceeded all expectations, so much so that he didn't even care where such a person was hidden. The emperor understands that compared to his mother, that child is a type that he has never seen, and at least has never met anyone like in the imperial palace. The girl turns to the emperor and heard this. He asks why she doesn't call him daddy, and then he suggests trying to call him daddy. At this time, the main character thought that although he is a good person, this is still just her job, and since this is work, she should call him that. And she also thinks that something like this might be too brash. The girl calls him daddy, and at this time she thinks that this is not a fantasy, since her own father, whose face she doesn't even know, is actually a person. And she looks at the emperor and thinks that this man in front of her is her dad. The princess realizes that her father actually exists, and she can touch him. Suddenly, His Majesty grabbed the girl by the hands and then told her not to do this again, and therefore no one would beat her. At this time, the main character began to cry, and then asked for forgiveness, and thought that there are no adults who love crying children. His Majesty explains that, of course, although he married her mother, he will not become her father by his own wish. And then he says that he was wrong for forcing her, and she is not to blame for anything. The princess says that even though it's only for 8 years, he is her father. And the fact that her mother entered into a marriage contract meant that she had a father. The emperor says that if her mother finds out that he again brought her to tears, she will make a fuss again. Hearing this, the little lady laughed, and he gave her a handkerchief to blow her nose so that the snot would not flow. And then His Majesty says that he must continue to work. The main character thought that the emperor did not ask to call her daddy. After some time, the maid entered the office, and the princess said that the table nearby was very dirty, and it was not visible since everyone was covering their documents. Lyrica understands that if you look, there are more than 1 or 2 dirty places in the office, and so she told His Majesty that she would wipe the inkwell. The emperor says that she can do whatever she wants whenever she wants. Hearing this, the chancellor asks if that means he will simply take advantage of her hard work and kindness. The girl says that that's why they agreed that she would be responsible for cleaning the office. Bryn turns to the girl and says that the princess does not do such dirty work, but the little lady says that she wanted to do something for His Majesty. The maid asks if this means that today Night Wolf gave her candy. The princess shows her the candies and says that they are very beautiful, and asks if she thinks the same. And she also said that he thanked her, and thanks to her, the office became clean. The main character says that if the surname of their family is Wolf, and then asks that other knights from the same family are also Wolf. Bryn replies that Night Wolf's name is Night Thane Wolf, and she is sure that His Majesty ordered not to let many people in because he does not like crowds. At this time, the maid thought that everyone was laughing behind her back, thinking that such a girl having messed up would not clean up. But she not only did the job, but much better than all expectations, and she also perfectly separated the garbage from the documents. People making fun of her emphasized that her origins were immediately visible, and it seems that the chancellor was also worried at first, and he also said that he would not tolerate it if the office became even dirtier. Wrath was surprised because the girl turned out to be more systematic than he suggested, and the sorting of documents was done. The chancellor asks the princess if she can read. She replies that she knows, but not everything. The main character turns to her maid and asks if she feels like she's not growing. Bryn replies that she is growing well, and then asks who told her that. At this time, the girl whispered something in her ear. The maid heard this and smiled, and then assures the girl that she is growing well, and others are simply growing faster. The maid says that there is a reason why they are strong and even stronger people. Bryn reminds the princess that she told her that His Majesty, that is the Tokar family, are descendants of the dragon, and therefore she will also tell about the history of the emergence of the state. The maid reports that the ancient people were truly outstanding magicians, and they were able to do absolutely everything they thought about, And even though God told them to use this will for good purposes, but of course, people didn't do that. As a result of the chaos, the continent on which people lived split apart and began to settle. However, some people obeyed God's command and built a ship on the top of the mountain. At the moment when the continent collapsed and began to settle, the dragon took off, grabbed the ship, and flew away with it. And so the people on the ship survived and ended up on these lands, where they now live. In those days, the territories were covered with dark forest and swamps, and various monsters lived there. And so the dragon transformed into a man and led the people fought. Monsters reconquered the lands and founded the country again. The princess asks if that dragon is Takar. The maid says that what she said was true, and then reports that after the country became larger, some monsters asked the dragon for permission to join him. The maid says that among them there was a huge wolf, and his descendants the wolves, and the descendants of a giant snake that was larger than the girth of a tree, are called Sandar. The dragon transformed people of all people, and they swore an oath of allegiance to him. It was said that in return, if they suddenly harm the dragon, they will return to their original form. Therefore, animals are often depicted on the coats of arms of the nobility, and these people are strong. Bryn tells the princess that she is growing well, then explains that they are simply faster than her. The main character asks if the Bryn family also has such a story. The maid replies that they say they were Dorian jackdaws, and they are wise and intelligent, so they were left nearby as chamberlains. And that's why Bryn's headband is always so sparkling. The main character thought that Glad is a snake, and Tan is a wolf, and it suits them very well to be in a bad relationship too. Lyrica reflects on the fact that it turns out that she really doesn't know anything at all about the palace, and even compared to Bryn, even though she is a princess, even under a contract, even though she is a daughter, even under a contract. And at this time, he realizes that most likely she is not there at all. The princess asks the maid to sit next to her, and then says that she wants to become an outstanding princess. The girl reports that since she became a princess, and then asks what she should develop further and not stop with mediocrity. The maid says that the little lady is right, and the girl says that she knows absolutely nothing about the imperial palace. He really knows nothing at all about aristocrats and the imperial family. The lyrics state that Bryn took care of the imperial family for a long time, and therefore he knows them much better than she does, and then asks if she will help her. Bryn says that she will help her since the Thakars do nothing but rule and give orders, and at this time she understands that this child is not real. The maid reflects on the fact that there are those in her family who are angry that her direct descendant of the family was introduced to such a child, and it was His Majesty's order about the Takarov's orders unconditional. Bryn thought that if she disobeyed His Majesty, then most likely he would throw her away, and she will turn into a black one again. At this time the maid thought that even if not so, she liked this princess, and even more than the real Takara. And she is a simple and humble child who catches your eye in this monster palace. She's also a cutie, and that's important. Bryn turns to the princess and says that she will help her. He did it with all his strength. The maid asks what the girl wants to know first. She replies that she wants to know about the imperial palace, since this is now her home. And the fact that she doesn't know its structure doesn't make any sense, and she doesn't even know who lives in it. At this time, the main character thought that if she was going to do something, then first she should find out about his laughter, and only after that she could calmly move inside him and do the work. Bryn takes the palace map and shows it to the girl. Lyrica thought that there were a lot of rooms in this palace, but when she saw it, she asked what kind of transition it was. The maid explains that this is a servant's hallway and is connected to a door used only by servants. The maid shows the girl a secret escape route. Hearing this girl thought that since it was secret, could it be depicted on the map? And she asked about it. Dam answers that usually this cannot be done, but since she is Salt, she owns this card. At this time, the main character thought that she had done the right thing by turning to Bryn. Suddenly, Lyrica sees a door and asks what this place is, but a knight stops her and says that entry into the room is prohibited and no one can enter there. The little lady says that she understands and then tells her maid to leave the place. The girl understands that there are many closed places, and it is very difficult to explore the rest since the palace is incredibly spacious. The princess gradually gets used to the fact that people bow to her with their heads or their whole bodies. Suddenly, the main character saw the chancellor who was holding papers in his hand and asks if she is busy. The girl replies that she walks around the palace to understand its structure, and this is her home, which means she should know it. Wrath asserts that she is doing the right thing and then asks if she accidentally came across places that she could not enter. The little lady says that the knights did not allow her to enter some of them. The chancellor says that if she goes to the knight squad's office, she will find Thane there. And then you invite him to tell him about it and ask him to assign a knight to them. At this time, the maid thought that this was a good idea, and the girl said that she understood everything. Rat asks the princess what her last name is, and the girl replies that Tucker. And the master suggests that she not forget about it. And then she says that she is incredible because she managed to get help from the Sol family. Then the girl went to look at the guards and saw that everyone was trying and only the person was at a distance. But when she came closer, the knights greeted the princess. The lyrics say that she is also glad to meet them, and at that time she thought that they were also big. The surprised knights ask the princess what brought her to them. And at this time, Tan comes out of his office. The little lady calls out to him and tells him that she needed to talk to him, and she just met with Wrath. And then he asks if it's okay to talk about this in front of so many people. Tan takes the girl in his arms and then says that he asks him to forgive him, and says that she can whisper in his ear. The knight looked at the maid and said that she could lower her weapon, and at that time I thought that having pulled this out among the wolves she might die. Lyrica reassures her maid and tells her that everything is fine. However, Bryn claims that it is impermissible to touch His Highness's precious body without permission. Tan explains that this is why he asked for forgiveness, and then asks if this is not normal, given their friendly relationship. The maid says that she is very happy and thought that the wolves still hear everything. After all, that's why she came to borrow the knight. Tan heard this and said that he needed to leave, and the girl says that there are some problems. The knight says that she knows that the issues of the members of the imperial family are of paramount importance, and then he goes with the girl. At this time, the main character thought that he would not allow it. The knight asks if the princess was taught in front of how many people she should bow her head, and she answers that before 3. Tang says that His Majesty's order is also elevated to the absolute, and they are unconditional on the territory of the empire. And even if they put up a scarecrow and call him Takar, all the aristocrats of the empire will be obliged to bow to him. At this time, the main character thought that this was something so incredible and an order from the emperor. Although she thought she was a princess, she never suspected all her power. The captain of the guard says that His Majesty has officially accepted her as his own daughter. Hearing this, Lyrica thought that Tan and Bryn must not know that she was a princess under contract, and that this was temporary, and she's just an adopted daughter. The knight reports that she is a princess who calls the captain of the Imperial Knightly Detachment for various trifles, and then he smiles. The main character understands that there are only 4 Tokarov living now, and this is the Emperor and Empress Crown Prince and Princess, and this means that she is now second in line to the throne. Lyrica understands that the Crown Prince will occupy him anyway, and this does not matter since she does not know much about the history of such a large scale. Tang claims that the princess is an important person, and the girl decided to approach the knight, and the captain reports that he will be watching behind. The main character asks if she can come in. The knight replies that she cannot, and at this time she thought that Bryn and Tang were behind her, and therefore she must be strong. The girl wonders why she can't. The knight replies that this is an order from His Majesty the Emperor. Hearing this, she understands that since the Emperor ordered it, nothing can be done. Lyrica asks if His Majesty ordered in his order that the princess specifically cannot enter there. However, the knight replies that it is impossible in any case. At this time, a maid comes up to them and asks why it's not possible, and Tan follows her and orders him to repeat why it's not possible. And then he tells him to name his rank. The knight says that he has the 1st Guard Detachment, and he is a soldier of the 1st rank, John Enders. The captain asks again why not. However, John cannot answer anything, and Tan reports that he knows that only people with a certain level of pass can enter the Palace of the Sun, and then asks if this level is necessary for a member of the imperial family. The knight replies that he is not needed, And then the captain asks if he can determine who the maid next to her is. Tang explains that she is a sign of the imperial family and asks if he doesn't know the basics. The captain invites him to bring his superiors. At this time, the maid thought that he was blocking the princess's path, and this was already nonsense, but he also frowned and hit the ground with his spear and threatened her. Bryn can't believe that he behaved so aggressively with a small child, and it's unimaginable in the wolf family. Tan says that he expected some opposition, but does not understand how some soldier dared to interfere with the rightful princess, even if she was adopted. And then he turns to the princess and says that she can go calmly. And at that time, I thought that there was no need to show her the menacing scene. The knight reports that he will stay here and deal with all this, and the princess asks if he is sure that he can cope alone, and then say that she can stay with him. Although she knows that she will do everything well on her own, but still in a fight, 4 fists are better than 2. The knight reports that if he suddenly becomes scared, he will immediately run to the emperor and therefore suggests the little lady not to worry. However, the girl assures him at home that he does not need to run away anywhere. Suddenly, the main character saw His Highness and then greeted him. The captain reports that he was going to scold the soldier rather than go to his wake. The emperor asks where an ordinary soldier gets such confidence to do something like this. And then he asks if it is not obvious that there is someone responsible behind him. His Majesty approaches the little princess, pokes his finger in her forehead, and tells her that she is Takar, and this has absolutely nothing to do with what kind of person she is, since she has and doesn't have. And he reports that he accepted her as his daughter, and this means that all people are obliged to bow their knees before her. The emperor says that if they do not do this, they will contradict him, and then asks who it was. The captain replies that this was a soldier of the first rank, and the chancellor says that the princess can enjoy the palace of the sun as much as she wants, but here she can leave everything to them. At this time, the main character thought that when he smiles, his face scares her, and yet she is sure that they do not become chancellors for kindness. Walking around the palace, the girl noticed that in other previously closed places, the soldiers had also been replaced, and apparently rumors were spreading very quickly. The maid says that this is due to her as a princess, and everyone is sensitive to issues related to the imperial family. Bryn asks the girl how she tastes power. The girl remembered sweets, and thought that if she had not become a princess, she would not even be able to try this just like that. Lyrica thought that the taste of power was on such a soft bed. If she had not been a princess, she would never have ended up. And then she thought she liked power. The chancellor asks the authorities if this is not the taste of money. However, the emperor claims that everything depends on how willfully she can use this power. At this time, the main character thought that she had enough power, since this was the first time she was living in such comfort. The princess reports that she is leaving because Bryn told her that today she will introduce her to the maids. The chancellor says that thanks to her, they removed the guard soldiers and even inside the Palace of the Sun, replaced them with a detachment of guard knights. Even though they are outside, they still use the soldiers, caring about their reputation. Either way, they were consumed. Tang says that he heard a while ago, Her Majesty the Empress also changed the headmaid and ladies-in-waiting. The emperor says that Rudia asked about this, and he said that this is the duty of the empress. Wrath says that she suddenly seemed to be waiting for this and took out evidence of their thefts and replaced everyone. And thanks to this, the supporters of the aristocrats lost all their puppets at one time. The chancellor says that the newly elected servant can be so perfect, and it feels like she saw all the documents on the investigations that he reviewed and almost fell in love. And at that time, I thought that she was acting too decisively, and therefore I couldn't even believe that someone was behind her. Wrath reports that it is as if she is not a knight but a chess player who controls this knight. And once again, he is surprised by her. And such a sweet aroma emanates from Lyrica. The main character tells her mother that she was introduced to the new maids, and she and Bryn went to the kitchen. And there she ate some delicious food and took a lot of different things with her. Hearing this woman thought that she had already replaced everyone, and no one there would feed her something strange. My daughter says that there is a lot of delicious food there, and Mom asks if she went to her office today. The girl says that she went to the office, and there His Majesty was throwing documents back and forth, and at this time the woman thought about how dare this dragon bastard. And then she calms herself down and says that her daughter is having a hard time. However, the little lady objects and says that she is having fun, and all these letters came for her mother. The woman says these are RSVPs and she's going to open a salon. She also wants to gradually start investing the money received from the contract. Mom reports that when she started working, she received a small advance. And when he finishes, all the wealth that they are now using will have to be left here, and therefore you need to earn a lot of money being in such comfort. At this time, Lyrica thought that her mother was very self-confident. And then he suggests to his mother not to buy holy water for all diseases or a clay pot of happiness because she should be careful with scammers. The woman does not understand why she needs this pot of happiness and asks about it, and then says that she has Lyrica and suggests not to worry, because mom will invest 100% only in what will bring profit. The lady tells her daughter not to worry as her mother knows everything. The main character says that when her mother invests, she should tell her because she must know about it, and she thinks that she must follow this process. At this time, my mother thought that what was more important now was that she had to give something to Leary. And then the bell rang, and the maid brought on the tray a silver coin that her mother had once borrowed from her. The woman reports that it was difficult for her to find the exact silver coin, but that old man promised her that he would put it separately. And then she asks if this is her daughter's coin. Seeing the coin, the girl was surprised and then said that it was her silver coin, and she remembers all the stains and scratches on it. And then she remembers how many times she stroked her and dreamed about the future. And frankly, Lyrica was upset and thought that nothing could be done about it. She did not want to receive another silver coin because it would not replace the one she had. The main character understands that talking about this is very childish and too unstable, and then thank your mother. The woman objects and says that she is the one who is grateful to her and asks for forgiveness that she could not find other coins. The daughter takes her mother's hand and says that everything is okay because the silver one is important. And then he asks how much effort she spent searching for this one coin. Mom says that Lyrica's happiness means her happiness too. The maid asks the girl if she likes this coin so much, and then she says that she will always carry it in the wallet that her mother made for her. At this time, the main character thought that even though there was money in this wallet, no gold coin would reach her silver one, and this is her only precious silver coin. Suddenly, Lyrica saw the next room, which is called the Black Dragon Room and the residence of the Crown Prince. And at this time, I thought that she had never met the Crown Prince even during the wedding. The maid explains that His Highness is now on his lands. And then she says that long ago people set a certain age for the Crown Prince, and when he receives lands, then speaking of Duke Rowan she means His Highness the Crown Prince. Lyrica asks when approximately he will be back. Bryn replies that she doesn't know. And if you think about it, this is already the time when he should have returned. At this time, the servant turns to His Highness and suggests that he go a little slower since they have never rested since leaving. And then he reports that everyone is exhausted, except for the wolves. The servant asks how His Highness is feeling since he is returning to his homeland for the first time in 6 months, and then reports that he has relatives. The Crown Prince heard this and tells him to shut up. Then asks who this family is. At this time, the main character asks the maid that if His Highness Crown Prince To, is he considered her elder brother. The lyrics say that she heard that His Highness the Crown Prince will be returning soon, and she wonders if it would be possible to hold a welcome party for him. How much would she like to meet him? Mother heard this and thought that the failed assassination of the Crown Prince planned by the knight's escorts, and which would soon happen, she was going to prevent this and just maintain a sufficient distance, and then reflects that he is still the next emperor, and she would like to be with him good relationship, and she wonders if she can give the go-ahead. The woman says that she is not sure about the party, since the Crown Prince is very picky about food and will not even pick up something unless it was brought by people close to him. Mother suggests trying something else instead. And then she asks, and it's enough just to greet him. And she thinks that it's better to clean the room from dust and put flowers as well as prepare some goodies, and then asks if it will work out well. The Empress says that when he gets rid of the fatigue accumulated during the trip, they will have a small tea party. Mother reports that there is a lot of talk about a cruel stepmother and a bad younger sister, and she suggests that perhaps His Highness is worried. At this time, the little lady thought of writing a letter for His Highness the Crown Prince. The girl writes that she has become his younger cousin, and Lyrica, and she greets him and congratulates him on his return. She also wanted to have a tea party with him in the garden, and therefore if he visits him and shines with his presence, she will be very grateful. In the evening, a surprised servant reports that they did not know that His Highness would arrive at such a time. The Crown Prince invites the butler to leave and then reports that he is tired and headed to his room. When His Highness entered his room, he saw brilliant order there and also a soft toy that was waiting for him. At this time, the girl who is next to the Crown Prince says that the smell in the room is very good, and a whole bunch of flowers were brought here. And then she says that they were in the north all this time, and therefore she did not even know that spring had come, and she also assumes that this is a girl's handwriting. The girl says that his new sister made this toy, and then she takes the sheet and gives it to the Crown Prince for him to read. The young master says that you can tell his sister that he will come. His partner, who was with him in the north all this time, says that this means that he is being met for the first time, right? And then he asks if he should order the food to be prepared or if he wants to wash himself. At this time, the girl thought that he would stand for 3 or 4 days under the scorching sun and come to his senses. The Crown Prince reports that he has gone to bed and offers not to disturb him until he wakes up, and then asks what these stupid things are. The surprised partner claims that he must be hungry, and the girl says that the skin on her stomach is already stuck to her back, and then asks Bran if he knew about it. The man replies that he only conveyed that they would arrive around this time, and that His Highness loves sweets. At this time, the lady thought that the food was not softened and the flowers were fresh and as if they had just been picked. And she assumes that the girl knew exactly when they would arrive, and that's why she got the timing right. And at that time, I thought that it makes sense to believe that it was not the princess herself who did this, but also the empress. The girl became interested in what kind of person this empress was, and she understands that there is too little information and thinks from tomorrow she needs to collect rumors. The man says that first he will go to bed because he understands that His Highness is stubborn and he does not want to overwhelm him with work on such a happy day. At this time, the main character sitting in her room began to wonder if His Highness had arrived, and she assumes that the tea has not yet cooled down and she can change the goodies. Lyrica thought that if she went out as usual, she would wake Bryn, and therefore better go along the servants' corridor. And she remembers that they say that if the owner is mediocre, then the services will do the work haphazardly, although she will do all this work of the maids herself. Suddenly the girl heard a sound and did not understand. Then she entered the Crown Prince's room and saw him. The main character was surprised because she did not even expect to see him today, and she doesn't understand why he's already here. The princess thought that he was too hungry, and therefore could not sleep, and remembered that there was some food in the living room. And when I sat down to eat one, it turned out to be delicious, and the following was reduced. At this time, the Crown Prince does not understand why the girl suddenly left there. Lyrics ponders that this is definitely the Crown Prince, and he's exactly the same as in the rumors. However, she does not understand how she can greet the prince in such clothes. The main character reports that she came because she thought that he wouldn't need any more tea or sweets. At this time, the young master thought that she was now pretending to be a maid, and he doesn't understand where in this world there is a maid who would walk around the imperial palace in such a form. The prince does not understand why she left there at such a time, and I thought that she had come to laugh at the fact that he was a fool that he was eating from a table set by the enemy. Suddenly, the girl bowed her head, and he wondered why this happened just because he sighed. You wondered to him that her neck was so red. What was her face like? The prince offers the girl something to eat, but she thanks him and says she doesn't want to. However, the young master insists on his own, and at this time, the chancellor comes into the room and says that His Highness the Crown Prince is mocking the poor girl, and then asks if this is an answer to the invitation sent to him by the princess. Wrath says that the prince said he would be present. The main character was delighted when she heard this, and then the prince told her that she could go, and the girl quickly ran away from the room. The young master asks why she is coming out from the other side. The chancellor says that this is not because, but this is a nice maid, and he is sure of it. Athel tells the princess that noble ladies take their maids with them, even when they go on a secret date. Hearing this, the girl asks if it then ceases to be secret. The maid says that the close maid is very important, and the lyrics say that what is more important is that His Highness said that he would come to the tea party. The princess reports that she saw Bran when she went out into the corridor and he caught her. The girl reports that he looks like her Bryn, and then he says that she is more beautiful. The maid says that we need to get ready for tea, and you need food that will remain tasty even if it gets cold. Bryn believes that you need to crush the pulp of peeled cucumbers and marinate it with salt, and then remove the moisture from each piece of white bread and grease it with butter, and you will get a delicacy. And they suggest whisking until the cream increases. The maid claims that he will never get up if he complains about pain in his arms and works at half strength, and then he suggests making it so thick that it won't fall out, even if it turns the plate over. And if they do it at random, then she will not leave them alone. The cook announces that Her Highness the Princess will meet His Highness the Crown Prince at this event. At this time, the main character imagines how she will meet him, and he says that it has become hotter and it is necessary to make a shadow. The servant suggests cutting the tree branches and then bending them, and below, they will tie them with ribbon to the end of the summer umbrella and connect them. The lyrics say that the teacups are very beautiful, and then ask if they are. The girl explains that her mother sent her their honor greetings to His Highness, and if you look closely, you can see squirrels on them. Another cup has a little bear on it, and each saucer has a different design on it, so it's fun to look for them. The main character reports that Chancellor Wrath gave the tea, and that's why the herbs smell very tasty. The maid says that even though the table is in the shade, the tea should be warm, and suggests putting a steamer on it to keep the heat so that the temperature does not drop. The cook reports that she has prepared caramel apples and rooibos, delicate aroma of pink flowers and beautiful scarlet color in a thick and dense cream of sour raspberries. Bryn says the tablecloth doesn't match the decoration on the umbrella, then asks if there is another one. The cook says that His Majesty has allowed the use of the ice pantry and therefore suggests adding finely chopped lemons to orange black tea and making iced tea. The main character says that she would like there to be neither too much nor too little. At this time, it was the end of May and the weather was clear, and the spring breeze is warm and lifts your spirits. The girl looked into the garden and saw that the roses were already in full bloom. And I thought, when His Highness comes, I will need to tell him. Lyrica asks the maid if it could be that His Highness is very late because he has a lot to do, and she replies that she will now send a servant to find out about it. The servant reports that in the Black Dragon's room, they said to tell him that His Highness will be delayed. At this time, the main character thought that if the prince said that he would be late, then she should wait for him. In the evening, the servant reports that he came from the Black Dragon's room, and His Highness ordered to convey that he is too busy today and will not be able to come. Lyrica tells the servant to tell him not to worry about it and not to blame himself. After all, she is sure that he is worried about the one who made her wait, and he offers to tell her that she's fine and not to worry. The girl says that she can send him the prepared sweets and then asks what Bryn thinks. The princess talks about how His Highness the Crown Prince is much taller than her and busier than her, and so if he is busy, then there is nothing he can do and break his promise. But she is worried that he will blame himself for this. The main character understands that if he did this, therefore that he really had no choice, then perhaps it would have been so. And she understands that most likely, His Highness the Crown Prince will hear it this way, that she is angry now and she is not at all okay. However, the maid assures her that he will only think about what she meant. After all, until this moment, there was oral translation in the style of the imperial palace. And there is nobility in this their princess that she says something like this sincerely and without a hint. The princess invites the maid to have tea with her, since it would be too pathetic to just clean up. Sitting at the table, the girl asks if it really works. Breen explains that the servant signals always work, but it is better to be careful in the presence of soldiers, as they may attack by mistaking the servant signal for an order to attack. And there were such candidates. The maid asks if Her Highness is okay. The girl says that she is sorry because she helped her, but in fact, she thought that this could happen. Bryn is surprised to hear this, and then asks why she thought that. Lyrica explains that whenever she comes to His Highness's office, he is always busy with work, and if the Chancellor says he has a meeting today, then today he is busy and will not go anywhere. The girl says that His Majesty the Emperor is known for breaking his promise whenever and however he pleases, and she also understands the circumstances of working people. At this time, Tan says that they will hear voices from the garden and is surprised. But when he saw that there was tea drinking at such a time, it became very unusual for him. Lyrica invites him to join them and says that the sunset is very beautiful. She invites Tan to drink tea since they have a lot of it and there is enough for everyone, and the cream is very tasty. The knight reports that it is too cold in the main wolf mansion and therefore it is difficult to get something like cream. I heard this girl asking, the cream does not harden in the cold. The man says that because of this they can't produce milk and will end up with milk. The princess thought about how cold it could be there. Seeing the girl, Tang asks if she is okay. The knight reports that another guest was supposed to come to them today, and then he asks that he would like to know if she is upset. Hearing this, the main character thought that Tang had not come by chance. Lyrica replies that she is not upset. She also thought about His Highness the Crown Prince, and he turns out to be a kind person. And all the time he continued to get ready, go with and meet with her. The girl says that since he is very busy, that's why he only thought that if he did a little more, the work would end. The prince tried his best to complete his business, but time just flew by, and she is sure that he really tried to meet with her. And so he said that he would come later. The main character claims that a person will approve of His Highness, and then she thanks Tan and says that if she were alone, she would definitely feel sad. Well, since Bryn was with her, everything was fine. At this time, the knight thought that this princess did not even admit that someone could hurt her. Although she has not lived her entire short life in peace, and she believes in people. Tan turns to the girl and says that she doesn't need to be so grateful. After all, he ate goodies and skipped the rest of his work. The commander says that after the victory over Wrath, he actually came to rock, paper, scissors. Having heard this girl claims that they could have come together. And he asks, who will work then? Lyrica reports that she sent very delicious food for the crown prince to eat while he works. Hearing this, Tang thought that usually the one who is higher sends food to the one who is lower, and he understands that Bryn's soul did not tell her about this. The maid says that since younger sister sent him food simply because it was delicious, then there is no difference. The captain wonders how His Highness took it, and at that time he thought that there was something that upset him. And if mother hears about this, she will be sad, and he hopes she'll be okay. The mother turns to her daughter and says that this is a gift, and then the girl claims that it is very beautiful. The woman says that she ordered it to improve her mood, and then she tells her daughter not to worry, because she is sure that in the future Athel will regret this day. The maid asks in surprise if this is really Algeric lace, and the woman replies that it is from there. It is also made on lands called Eldzerk, and the price corresponds to the quality because the craftsmen from there make incredibly fine, thin, and beautiful lace. Mother explains that this sun umbrella has a shaft made of elephant tusk and a handle of gold. At this time, the maid thought that its cost was equal to the whole castle, and this was not an exaggeration. Lyrica took the umbrella in her hand and thought that it was heavy, and then thought that if her mother noticed she would be upset. The daughter asks her mother if she can go for a walk now, and mom says she can go. Walking through the garden, the girl thought that carrying an umbrella was much easier this way, and through it, the color sparkles and it is very beautiful. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the wind came and lifted the umbrella. At this time, the princess screams that her sun umbrella, which her mother bought for her, wants to fly away from her, and at this time she runs after it. Lyrica caught the umbrella at that time and fell along with it. Lying on the grass, she heard a voice saying that she was flying on a sun umbrella and fell. And at that time, I thought that someone was here. The girl says that she's very sorry, and at that time she saw the guy's face. His Majesty asks the girl if she is okay, and then he smiles. Lyrica was surprised and then replied that she was fine. And at this time, she does not understand who he is, and reflects on the fact that she has never seen someone so beautiful besides her mother. The guy claims that this umbrella is too heavy for her, and then says that he should have made it lighter. At this time, a maid approached them, and he says that she is the same princess about whom there have been so many rumors lately. And then he realizes that no one but her would walk around with such a sun umbrella. The gentleman says that he thought she was a luxurious villainess, but she surprised him. Hearing this, the main character thought that she should not forget about nobility since she is a princess. The lyrics say that you cannot determine what a person is like only by rumors and without meeting him in person. The young gentleman agrees with her and says that gossip and gossip are so interesting. Bryn turns to the Duke's son Bharat and tells him to show his manners since he is in front of Her Highness the Princess. The guy says his name is Feared Bharat and he is the masterpiece of the Bharat family, and then asks if this will be enough. At this time, the main character thought that it was her first time making such a beautiful curtsy. The guy heard this and asks if she is serious. The girl says that this is true, and he curtsies more elegantly than Lady Glendoran, who teaches etiquette. And then she says that he does better than any person from the palace, and this is the first time she has seen this. Lyrica asks Mr. Feared if he will teach her how to curtsy. The guy explains that permission from the imperial court is needed to train the princess and asks if she can get it first. Having heard this girl was surprised and said that she did not know at all. The young master turns to her and says that she can just call him Feared. The guy says that he still thinks the teasing strategy won't work and suggests it's better for her to leave. The young master reports that she will not hear anything good if she tells anyone that she met Bharat here. Mom asks Lyrica if she liked the walk. However, the girl does not answer, and she does not understand what is wrong with her daughter. Lyrica asks her mom if she knows Fearda Bharata. And, at that time, I thought that even though she asked Bryn about him, and she answered her that it would be too difficult for her or an etiquette teacher to answer this question, and then she said that she could ask Her Majesty the Empress. The woman says that she of course knows him, and now he's about 12 years old, and then he wonders why his daughter is asking about this. The main character explains that she met him in the garden, and he picked up her umbrella. Hearing this, Mother was surprised that she met him in the garden of the Palace of the Sun, Duchy of Bharat, leaders of the opposition faction of aristocrats, and they were not satisfied with this, and the greedy flower set its sights on the throne. And if only the crown prince dies, Bharat's successor will take over the throne. The Empress understands that especially now when the crown prince's mother is of lower position, and there is no other living direct relative from the Tokar family besides the prince. The woman therefore thought that before rebirth there was a chance of success, and sided with the aristocrats, and was against the crown prince, but she hardly thought about Feared Bharate. Her Majesty thought that of course he would die after 3 years anyway, and the faction of aristocrats has no chance of success. The rights of a dragon which only Takari enjoys, as well as the knowledge of who the current emperor is. Because of this, in a past life, the Empress lost her child and she herself stood on the platform for the fire. Because of her, Lyrica died because of her stupid actions. She herself burned in the flame. Mother understood that, therefore, in this life, she did not want to get involved with aristocrats or the imperial family. And if she had another way out other than contract marriage, she would have taken it. But since she wants to use the experience she gained as a dog of the aristocratic faction, she has no other choice. The woman, therefore, did not pay attention to the seemingly non-existent child who would rather die. She is more concerned about Duke Bharat's daughter, who will appear in a few years. The Empress does not understand why the son of the leader of the aristocratic faction is wandering around the Palace of the Sun. And then she says that Feared's curtsy is very, very elegant. Lyrica says that she wants to learn it and asks if this is normal. Mother says that he is a boy. However, the girl assures her that he is incredibly good at curtsies. At this time, the mother thought that she couldn't believe that her daughter was asking for something so persistently, and then she says that she will make a request to the Bharat family. Mother understands that even though he is a political opponent of the crown prince, this child will still die in 3 years. And even if after the divorce they live modestly, they need to leave good connections, and having nothing, it will be easy to get hit in the back of the head. The woman reports that if this is to protect her daughter, then she will twirl the Empress's crown in her hands like a toy. And if she asks her about it, then she must fulfill her request. Mother reports that very soon she will be able to buy her everything she wants, and then she says that her mother will become rich. The woman says that she actually found something in which to invest money, and a man named UBA is looking for a sponsor for research expeditions. And although he is called a fraudster, he is actually honest. Hearing this, Lyrica asks how much she plans to invest. Mother thought for a bit and then reported that everything was fine. Having heard this, daughter reports that she will personally talk to that person. The empress says that most likely he has not left the palace yet, and if she calls him now, she can make it in time. However, the little girl did not listen to the end, but immediately ran to that person. And at that time the woman thought that with such a loose tongue like his, he himself would persuade her properly, although this made him even more reminiscent of a swindler. Mother understands that her daughter still cannot trust her, even if everything has been smooth so far. Now you are an expert in society. Its factions of tournament and crinoline dresses are already at enmity, and she understands that it won't be long before the crinoline faction will be completely defeated. The woman does not understand who will wear a crinoline. If due to too large clothes, it will not be possible to run normally from a huge fire in the opera house, which is likely to happen. Although now as an empress, she artificially brought him to popularity. Initially, bustles were supposed to become popular after this incident, and she reflects on the fact that she can still just leave it burn as brightly as it is. The empress reflects on the fact that after she succeeds in everything one after another, then her daughter too will someday believe her mother. The maid tells the princess that she is not allowed to run, and then he claims that members of the imperial family walk but do not run. The princess answers the maid that she is now not a member of the imperial family, and at that time she thought that this was a shocking confession. And then the girl remembers her mother's words and reflects on the fact that because of this, she cannot believe her. The lyrics reflect on the fact that this man is a fraud, and people like him should not be given time to prepare for an attack, because he is going to deceive her homegrown mother and take away all her property. The girl understands that she really doesn't know, but at some point her mother completely changed. The main character thinks that her mother decided that that man did not even meet with him because of her distrust of her mother. Brain tells the princess that the man she is looking for is nearby. The servant says that he is greeting Her Highness the Princess, and at this time a stranger says that she is the very princess about whom there are rumors. The main character looked at this unfamiliar man, and at that time she thought that this idiot was definitely a scammer. Feared says that for the daughter of a villainess and rumors, she was too similar to Robin Bird. At this time, Lyrica thought that he was UBA, and then she screaming said that he was a fraudster. And at that time she thought that she was nervous and confused what she needed to say out loud and what to herself. The girl thought that she needed to pretend that nothing had happened now, and then she asks if he is UBA and invites him to talk a little. At this time the princess thought that the brat looked like a natural swindler, and then she says that she heard that Her Majesty promised to invest in him. The man says everything is right, she said. And at that time the girl thought about what it meant that he had bewitched his mother with his luxurious appearance. The lyrics indicate that rumors that he is a fraud are widespread, and then he says that we are confident that he deceived her kind-hearted mother. And then she invites the man to go now and tell Her Majesty the whole truth. At this time the main character thought that he should have felt the greatness of the princess. The girl realizes that from Uba's perspective, she looks like the sheep he raised as a child. After all, she always trampled her hooves in the same way when she was angry. The man understands that now is not the time for such thoughts, and then asks how the princess can call him a fraudster and reports that he is offended by this. UBA believes that if his princess listens to what he has to say, she too can find out what the truth is. And at that time I thought that it was with such difficulty that I got this sponsor, and therefore I couldn't lose him like that. The main character understands that he is right, because it is a little indecent to get rid of something he didn't even listen to. And at that time I thought that she really had gone a little too far. The lyrics say that she will listen to him first, but only here in the garden can he talk while walking. The girl understands that even though he is a cheater, if she invites him into the room, she will feel too guilty, and if you drive her away, then she will also have this feeling, and if he's in the garden, he can easily run to his mother. UBA reports that he has already entered Suhei 3 times, and for the first time he lost all his comrades. The man claims that a person who becomes a legend of research expeditions will expand the borders of the empire, and in areas that could not yet be cultivated even more. On the one hand, empire's a haven for criminals, an endless desert, and on the other, an endless sea of trees, and monsters live there catching and devouring people. These are mysterious lands where neither a compass, nor constellations, nor the rising sun will help. However, rare seasoning plants and other things grow inside the dry. And there are also a lot of new things that when fellow travelers return, bring them a lot of money. Even without the confidence and ability to return home, people entered Sukhoi and disappeared there. And this business requires a huge amount of funds. Therefore, the support of aristocrats is necessary. The man reports that many considered him a fraudster and did not invest, and yet, very soon he will return having achieved incredible success. UBA reports that in a past life he received a joint investment from commoners, and after that, the unification of the expedition became popular, but he is not interested in such things. At this time, the Empress drinks tea and thinks that Lyrica can trust her mother a little more. But I heard the main character say that she didn't even know this and considered Ubu a fraudster. The man looked at the girl, and as she rubbed her eyes, she thanked her for crying because of him, and then asks her to renounce what she said before, and he says that he will return at any cost. At this time, the servants thought that no matter how much they listened, it looked like fraud. The princess pulls out her silver coin and says that she is also investing in him, although not much. Lyrica realizes that this is the silver coin that she prayed for, dreaming of becoming a rich woman when she lived on the poor streets, and told herself that someday she needed to escape from here and live happily with her mother. Hearing this, the man is surprised and asks if she really believes in him. The princess reports that she believes in him because he speaks the truth. And at this time, the maid says that it was fun because that's where the lie ends. Bryn thought about why he shouldn't become a theater actor. And then he says that this is payment for listening to an interesting story. UBA realizes that even when he was told that the new empress was calling him, he did not hope for anything. And at this time, I thought that he had a loose tongue. But still everyone was the same. And they don't even believe him. The man remembers that the empress believes in him and therefore will invest all her fortune in him. And then he looked at the princess and thought that they looked like mother and daughter. UBA reports that he will definitely bring this matter to success and will still be careful in any way so that it does not cost him. The next day, the emperor says that he heard that she was fooled. However, the girl objects and says that UBA did not fool her. His Majesty claims that it is better to experience everything the hard way and then asks if he is telling the truth. The gentleman says that he heard that Atil sent her away. The princess explains that she was not rejected, but His Highness is very busy. Hearing this, the emperor claims that in fact, perhaps that child needs a person like her. And then he explains that he says that Atil acted like a fool. Lyrica asks His Majesty what is troubling him. However, he objects and says that nothing is bothering him. At this time, the emperor thought that he considered this a great way to kill time, but he begins to become more and more interested and has problems. And then he says that it doesn't matter because everything is just in time. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what he is talking about and then asks. Suddenly, the prince enters the room and the little lady greets His Highness. The young master turns to the emperor and reports that he has brought the report that His Majesty asked for. The emperor invites the prince to go with the girl to the shore of the lake and ride a boat. The boy wonders if this is an order. His Majesty replies that in a way it is. The prince has nothing left to do, and he takes the girl and goes for a walk with her. Lyrica asks if she can have the basket, but the boy assures that there is no need to do this. The main character reflects on the fact that at least the principal went to the walls with her without much choice because His Majesty gave this order, and she thought that she could take this chance and make friends with him. When they came to the lake, the girl said that it was very beautiful and that she had never actually come to it before. The princess is interested because the lake is in such a place and where it is moving from. And suddenly she saw an island in the middle on which there was a small building. When they got on the boat, the main character thought that she was sailing on a boat for the first time. Lyrica informs the prince that she did not ask His Majesty to do so, and he answers that he knows. At this moment, the crown prince's thoughts were that he had not made her wait so long because it was obvious that she could not offer to meet first. The prince understands that he is uncomfortable and he is still unlike what he thought. Maybe she chirps without stopping and he does not feel hostility. The boy reflects on the fact that he has not heard such a voice for a long time, and therefore he does not even know how to treat her. Lyrica says that she does not know his position, but on this score she always wanted to have a brother or sister, and she would be very glad to have an older brother, even if it was a cousin. The girl says that she doesn't know how he will react to this, but she wants to be close to him. and then he asks if it's possible. At this time, the prince thought that no one had ever told him directly to his face and right away that they would like to make friends with him. And he understands me. Is this really how the crown prince is told? The guy thought that she was an alien or came from another world or from another country. He looked at the lady and thought that her eyes were like green turquoise and like the foreign sea that he had once seen. Fide reports that his father had a lot of brothers and sisters, and there were 6 of them in total. However, when his father took the throne, he was left alone, and all his brothers and sisters died. The guy reports that this is called death in the imperial palace, and he also drank poison for the first time at the age of 7. The prince reports that he rolled on the stone floor due to excruciating pain, scratching his internal organs and vomiting blood. And he remembers what his father said before his death, that they are descendants of dragons created from fire and air and must bravely overcome difficulties. My father said that if he collapses from such nonsense being at the center of power, he will only be killed. I heard this girl say that he was probably very sad. At this time, the prince thought that there was not a single person around him who would say such a thing. The lyrics say that His Highness must become stronger, and at this time the prince remembers his father's words that he should believe his uncle, and the nanny argued that he too should become stronger. The boy thought that the top of the government was only outliving its ranks, until someone is left alone, and feeling his uncle's cold gaze on him, he is sure that he is too. And then he says that he was probably really sad. Lyrica asks if she's going to die. Hearing this, the prince asks what she is talking about, and the girl explains that she will not die like his father's brothers and sisters. No, and then says that she will not make him sad, and therefore he need not worry. Athel asks if she will always be by his side, and the little lady replies that of course, because brothers and sisters have to do that. Heard this, prince smiled. And then he says that he does not believe such a thing and invites her to listen, that he did not cry even at the funeral of his father in the imperial family. Power makes people like this. The main character says that any person needs these words, and someday these words may seem empty, but it's difficult for him to believe in them. And then she says that she needed them, and she believes that such things really exist. At this time, the young master thought that this girl was not a fool. And then he remembers that he heard that she would survive in poor areas, and he wonders how the world in this little girl's head can be so colorful. The prince reports that he refuses someone like her because it is burdensome for him. After all, for him, faces and voices like hers are too reminiscent of a fairy tale. At this time, a servant approaches them, who turns to His Majesty and says that he cannot walk without security. The guy asks if this was His Majesty's order, and then says that he always improvises. His Majesty points his finger at the man and says that this is his escort knight Rovan. The servant says that he is pleased to meet Her Highness the Princess, and then says that his name is Rowan Gray. When the main character looked at him at some point, a ringing sound was heard in her head. The girl realizes that from a long time ago she had a good instinct, and she believes that she survived on the poor streets thanks to him. However, she does not understand what is wrong with this man, and she has a bad feeling that he will definitely harm them. The princess asks how he found them. The knight replies that he asked the chamberlain, and at that time the girl noticed that he was pulling out a sword and then screaming, turning to His Highness. The boy takes the girl in his arms and he protects her. However, the young master does not understand what is happening and asks why he is doing this. The knight reports that he served him for 8 years for this moment, and given their affection, he wanted to send him to the next world at least, so that he would not find out about anything. Rovan says that's how things turned out in the end. The prince at this time remembers his father's words, that he must not forget that their ancestors were dragons created from air and flame and sailing through the skies. Athel remembers the words of the aristocrat who said that the prince does not even cry at his father's funeral, even though he is Thakar, but this actually scares them. At this time, the boy thought that he needed to become stronger, but he did not understand how he should be in such a situation if he was attacked by an adult-trained man with a sword in his hands. And he also does not understand what he should do with the body of a 12-year-old small child without the power of Tokarov. At this time, the lyrics address the knight and say that he is a bad traitor, and he is the worst person who believes that he has reasons to do this shamelessly intend to kill a child. Knight Rovan reports that he cannot believe that he made such an ill-mannered girl a princess, and this was expected from an emperor of unknown origin. The knight reports that the problem is that he is the head of an entire country, and now a new one will come to it. When Rowan attacked the prince with a sword, he quickly dodged and then hit him with a wine bottle, thereby injuring him. And then the boy took the girl and ran. The prince remembers that when he knocked out a row at the age of 7, when he opened his eyes, there were only servants next to him, and as soon as the time came for the end of the work, they left. Uncle said that this time he was fine and everything was fine and didn't even come. He only talked to the chamberlain that his defenders would be sad if he died. And when they return to their families, they will be consoled, and they will find a new owner and will take care of him. Athel reflected that if he died, his uncle would give birth to his own children and appoint another crown prince, and he doesn't understand why there are so many people who can replace him. The boy understands that everyone in life has their own person dear to them, but for no one he was such, and he no longer has a person whom he could love so much. I thought that absolutely no one loved him and he didn't love anyone, and this means that he is independent of no one and he is stronger than everyone. The prince fled with the girl, indicating that he can become stronger. Because he is a descendant of dragons, created by air and fire, and even the inability to use abilities will not change this. And that's why he doesn't care. After all, he is sure that he will become stronger even without the abilities of dragons. The boy reflects that if he ever grows up, he will put a crown on his head and sit on the highest place. The prince believes that he has neither eternity nor supporters, and together with him, he does not need any of this. The knight grabs the girl by the hair and says that he behaved impudently. The young master took the stick in his hand and tried to defend himself. And at that time, he thought that he, being sure that he was behaving like a fool, and did not understand why he was protecting this stupid girl who had become a burden for him. At this time, the prince thought that the world had come to an end, for thick darkness fell over them. But suddenly he heard a voice saying that all these two were fine. And then he saw His Majesty. Athel does not understand where he learned about everything and how he came. And at that time I thought that he could have known all this from the very beginning. The prince asks if he used him as bait, and he doesn't understand what kind of expression he has on his face because he's looking at his nephew who almost died, and he doesn't even know and is still called a man. The emperor argues that it is too rude to speak this way and that way. The young master asks His Majesty to tell him directly whether he used them as bait, and then he claims that he wants to know the reason because if he doesn't ask, a misunderstanding will occur. And at that time, I thought that he might not like this answer. The emperor replies that he did not use them as bait, and then explains that the picnic was indeed a spontaneous decision. His Majesty says that he came to them because her mother somehow found out about it and made a fuss. And then he reports that they were going to come together, but as soon as he found out that Atil was in danger, he arrived first. The emperor turns to the girl and says that her mother is also on her way to the ship and is probably not visible to her, and then says that in any case she is sailing on a boat. Hearing this, the little lady began to cry. The prince asks if she was hurt, and he wonders if Rovan somehow hurt her when he grabbed her. The princess ran up to the prince and then hugged him and said that she was very scared. And then he says that everything ended well. Suddenly they heard the voice of the empress who called the name of her daughter, and at this time the prince invites the girl to go to her mother. The emperor tells the woman that they are both fine, and she says that she is glad because everything is fine, and then she hugs the children. The empress asks if the children are okay, and the emperor explains that it was he who saved them and asks why she doesn't hug him. Hearing this, the woman asks how he can say such things now, and then they explain that it's psychologically difficult for children and therefore they need to leave there as soon as possible. The prince reminds the girl that he said that she would not die, and then they take her to her room. Atil says that he is sure that someone was behind Rovan. The emperor says that they are investigating it and thinks he has learned a lot too, then asks if he hasn't, and then he suggests being careful of your surroundings. His Majesty invites the prince to go to his room to rest since he is not injured anywhere. At this time, the empress invites him to wait, and then informs him that she has no right to say anything about raising children. because she was angry that Lyrica kept her waiting and didn't look after her, even though she knew about the possibility of an attack. At this time, the woman thought that she had no right to say such a thing, and if she had told her, Lyrica would not have been attacked. And apparently, that's why people should do good. The lady realizes that compared to that man, and then asks if that's all he can say to the child now. And then she says that that's why he won't trust people. The emperor does not understand what we are talking about and asks about it. The empress says that he also learned a lot from this incident and then asks if it is necessary to say such things now. After all, he himself doesn't trust anyone, and she doesn't understand how she can change a child again. Hearing this, the emperor asks how she dared, but the woman suggests they wait a minute and then reminds him that he promised not to swear in front of the children. The empress turns to the boy and says that she will support him until he takes the throne. And then she says that she is not going to give birth to a child from the emperor. The woman believes that although it seems that he doesn't care about anything, Atheltos will still put him on the throne because he is not so stupid. And for her, it is important whether he believes her or not, but she is simply telling him the truth. The prince asks if they were involved in the attempt on his life. The emperor replies that it is, of course, and then asks why he needs it. At this time, the boy thought that he had that very expression on his face that was asking why he said this. The emperor turns to his wife and suggests continuing the conversation. And then he reports that she says that he is incredulous and he does not understand why she is even saying such things. The woman asks how he thinks and then says that she doesn't know. His Highness says that there is only one thing he is sure about her. At this time, the prince sitting outside the door reflected on the fact that everything that had happened up to that moment was a misunderstanding. The maid turns to the prince and says that the princess is looking for him. And then he went to the little girl's room and asked what was wrong and why she couldn't sleep. Athel says he was told she was looking for him. The girl explains that she wanted to offer to sleep together. The boy lay down next to her in bed and then asks if this is enough, and she says that's enough, and he asks why she's so happy. Lyrica replies that they sleep together like that, and she would definitely like to try it when she has a brother or sister. The prince strokes the girl on the head, and she asks the prince if His Highness is scared, and then he says that it seems to her that she will never forget about this. The main character remembers that a shoeshine guy she knew once told her that the worst people are those who do bad things without considering them as such. Although the boy asks why she screamed about him being a villain, and then he says that she could actually die. The girl believes that he could have escaped when she was caught, but he did not. The guy explains that he is used to this because this is the 4th time hearing this. The girl was surprised, and he thought that such a reaction was also new. The prince says that he thought that His Majesty knew about everything but did nothing, and he thought that he would use him as a knight in chess, and if he died it would be good. And if not, then there is no difference. At this time, the boy thought that the emperor had such a face because he really did not understand what he was talking about. And he also can't believe that this inhuman uncle talked to his aunt about such things. And if the aristocrats saw them, they would fall from shock. Athel reflects that he actually saw a different side of his uncle that day. The little lady says that she thinks she will be scared even the 4th time. The prince takes the girl by the hand and then says that the feeling of betrayal is stronger than fear. And he does not understand what is the reason that Rovan did this now, after the passage of time. After all, he has been with him since childhood. The boy says that he will not let go of her hand and then invites her to sleep peacefully. And at this time, he reflects on the fact that he could get rid of him at any moment. And he does not understand why Rovan did it now. And he can't believe that the 8 years they spent together turned out to be a lie. The young master wonders what his knight was thinking as he looked at him. And then he suggests that he probably imagined how he would mercilessly kill, or the real owner would give the order. At this time, the prince remembers his father's words that he must be strong in order to survive and someday find happiness. My father said that it was obvious that a difficult future awaited him, and he could not believe that he would have to die without being able to leave him anything. But he must not forget that his ancestors, the great dragons, were created from thin air and were capable of flying through the skies. And they are the most powerful and beautiful creatures in this world. The boy remembers that his dad told him not to forget about his sense of pride, because every time it's hard for him, he must believe his uncle. However, the prince realizes that he cannot trust the man he first met, and he doesn't want his father to leave and leave him alone in the world, where there is no one on his side. The boy knows that among these wild animals who will tear him to shreds as soon as he shows his weak side, and he realizes that he is the crown prince, a lonely orphan. The young master muses that he will become stronger because his father told him so, and because he will survive and be alone forever, but will never die. And those who are on his side are his family. The prince understands that perhaps it is because of this that one can love and perhaps be able to become a family. And when he looked at the girl, he thought that she had a vulnerable and soft face, and he can't do anything because he will have to protect her. His Majesty understands that family cannot be replaced by anything, and it is always there. But in fact, nothing has changed in the world. Athel doesn't understand why he then so joyfully insists that everything will be fine from now on, and the sound of breathing reaching his ears inside the half-foggy mind is like the movement of a paddle wave, and the emerald-colored sea is just like her eyes. And if you plunge into these wide waves, then no one will know about a couple of drops of tears shed into the vast lagoon. The guy understands that for the first time, he falls asleep so easily, and therefore now he can cry. After all in this sea, there is no need to become stronger in front of her. The next day, Wrath reports that the Emperor and Empress are still in the bedroom and are holding a meeting there. Hearing this, the little lady says that she will be much more useful than her mother's meeting about Wrath. However, the Chancellor objects and says that she will under no circumstances attend it, and she can rest peacefully for now and not come to the office. The princess asks if her mother is okay. Athel says that she may have a hard time in terms of stamina, but her uncle can't be that bad. The girl does not understand why His Majesty is holding a meeting about the assassin with his mother for so long, and the boy says that she is worrying in vain. The guy sees the guys and asks what they are talking about after making them wait so long. And then he says that the guy who was with him should meet the girl and then calls his name Pai. The blonde boy says that every time he acts like this, he looks a lot like His Majesty the Emperor, and then he says that he is Pai and the Sundar family. Aristocrats have two names and they are used for different situations, the first for friends and the second for dating in society. And the girl understands that this is a very old-fashioned greeting using only the middle name. The main character remembers that Mrs. Glendoran told her that now everyone uses only their first name. The girl says that she is pleased to meet Pai from the Sundar family, and she is informed that her name is Lyrica. The boy says that it is his honor to know her first name. Pai then meets her friend Bran, and then asks if she knows him. At this time, the girl thought that this was the guy she had seen before. The main character remembers that the teacher said that the Sol family are not aristocrats, and therefore they cannot introduce themselves to members of the imperial family. And the funny thing is that, despite this, every aristocrat knows about Sol. Lyrica introduces her closest maid, Bryn Sol, and then says that she is a very important person to her. I heard that this prince thought that how could some Bryn be an important person for her? When they were walking, the prince asks the girl if she invested in the scammer's business and then claims that he heard about it and then says that there are rumors about him everywhere, that he is a fraudster. The lyrics claim that UBA is not a fraud and he is a good person. Athel says they all seem that way. However, the girl objects and says no, and then explains that if he listens to him, he will understand. And at this time, the prince thought that she had been completely deceived. The prince says that Suhi is always a gamble, and he doesn't understand how he can 100% guarantee that he will come back. The main character claims that even the fact that he guarantees this already means that he is not a fraudster, and he has a lot of other experience. The guy does not understand why she is like this, because he thinks that there are only good people in the world. And then he claims that he is sure that the idiot will turn out to be a fraudster. ATL agrees with the girl and then asks what if he continues to insist that this is not so. What will she do later when he turns out to be a fraud? Pai asks why they are fighting over this man, and Bran supports him and says that he does not need to fight over this. The prince turns to the girl and claims that if it suddenly turns out that that idiot is a fraud, then in the future when she invests in something, she will first have to get permission from him. Hearing this, the princess says that then if he does not turn out to be a fraud, then please he should call people she trusts that way. And at this time, the girl thought that since they had a fight, it means that they will separate in the future. His Majesty took the girl by the hand, and she thought that it was normal to argue with lyrics to about this extent. And that means everything is fine. The main character says that she is interested in something, and then asks if he has his own lands, and she wonders what they are like. Ad and L answers that there is, and then explains that it is cold there, and therefore almost no crops grow, and because it's north. At this time, the main character thought that buckwheat is very susceptible to cold, and therefore maybe she just needs to choose something else to grow. And then he asks if this land is bad. Pi believes that although it is not as badly damaged by frost as the peasants' lands, they cannot be called good territories. And the prince says that you need to be an emperor to be able to plow such areas. Hearing this, the girl began to wonder how cold it was there. After all, before when she walked barefoot in the snow, she felt as if she was stepping on a blade. And she understands that in the summer it's possible to survive somehow, but the cold is truly scary. And he thinks that this might cause his nose and fingers to fall off. The prince says that it is very beautiful there in the summer. And Pi claims that the birch forest is especially beautiful, and blueberries, raspberries, blueberries, and this is a paradise of various berries. And at such times you can tear them and make endless jams and syrups. And there's also a lot of honey and nuts, and that's why the bears just go crazy over such deliciousness. The lyrics say that she also tried raspberry jam, and it was beautiful, sparkling like a jewel and sweet. ATL explains that this is because the jam is cooked with sugar, and real raspberries are not that sweet. Hearing this, the girl thought that he had destroyed her fantasies. The girl reports that she wants to fill a whole bucket, and she doesn't care that there will be bears around. At this time, the prince grabs the girl's hand and continues to walk faster. However, she does not understand anything and asks where he is taking her. The young master takes the girl in his arms and screaming says that she is very slow. At this time, she thought that this was déjà vu, since she was sure that this had happened before. The girl reports that she is heavy, but he objects and says that she is not heavy, but much lighter than a foal. Lyrica heard this and doesn't understand why he compares her to this. The young master announces that they have arrived, and the little lady saw the palace wall. Pi asks His Majesty if he is sure that everything will be okay. Lyrica asks if she should grab the vine and climb over it. ATL says that everything is fine, and then shows the door and opens it. When the girl walked out the door, she saw a field with raspberries, and then he asks in surprise where they are. The prince invites her to pick only ripe berries. Lyrica began picking raspberries with delight. The young master gives the girl the keys and tells her that she should now manage this place. The girl was surprised when she heard this, and then asked if she could really use it. Lyrics addresses His Highness and says that although she will use it, she suggests that he remain the owner. However, he objects and tells her to use it herself. Hearing this, the girl replies that she will do so if he is a co-owner. The main character understands that she will leave here someday anyway, and therefore it is somehow absurd to become the only mistress. ATL asks why she is addressing him as His Highness. After all, she said that they are family. Hearing this, the little girl hugged him, and then they all went to eat raspberries together. Pi turns to the princess and says that she eats deliciously. Hearing this, the girl thought that she had violated the rules of etiquette. However, the blonde guy explains that he just liked how happy she looked. And at that time, I thought that he was a fool because he could not tell the princess that she looked happy. And he understands that if it were another aristocrat, he would take this as an insult. Pi thought that he had made a mistake and could not restrain himself because she seemed incredibly happy. At this time, the girl thought that it was very tasty for her, and it was fun. The prince thought that he was pleased that the princess did not look for subtext in the words of other people, and she believed what was said directly. Pi is worried about how the princess will interpret his words and who she will report them to, or find a weak point in them. And then he turns to Her Majesty and says that he apologizes because he said something unacceptable. Lyrica objects and says that she also violated etiquette because she should not have asked the same thing. And at that time I thought that a real princess would not ask such a question. But the boy assures her that it was he who made a mistake, and without noticing it, became too relaxed. The girl says that she will forgive him if he gives her one berry. Pi says he will give even 2 or more. And he also wants her to forgive him so much that he is ready to buy a whole bucket for her. The prince looked at them and said that he was looking for an excuse, And then he says that he simply doesn't want to do something every time, when in the future, he will need to ask for forgiveness for it. Pai turns to the princess and says that even though the prince is like this, he asks to take care of him. At and L heard this and angrily asks who he is to ask for him. Lyrica speaks to the maid and says that she will share half with her since she has helped her the most. When the prince went out onto the balcony, he says that he did not think that he would be able to enter that garden again. Pai reports that the princess does not know how important he is to him, and yet he imagines how much he values and supports her. ATL reflects that the previous empress was of lower origin. For the sake of a wife who is unable to overcome the continuous condemnation of ministers and loneliness in noble society, the emperor laid out a small garden inside the palace and built a hut there, and the empress locked herself in that place and never went out into the world. It doesn't matter whether the ruler of the country did the right thing or not, because this place was a small paradise that belonged only to the empress. At this time, the woman reports that a letter has arrived from the empress, and that despicable one who said that you want to make him the princess's curtsy teacher. And she wonders how big of an ignoramus you have to be to ask a boy to teach this. The aristocrat says that, since they have a name, Takar will benefit from keeping in touch with them. And then he offers to take this opportunity to see how pathetic they are. Hearing this, Feared agrees with his mother. At this time, the main character came into her mother's room, but when I saw her, I thought that while they had not seen each other, my mother began to look incredibly exhausted. The woman asks if nothing happened to her daughter, if anything is wrong with her. And at that time, Lyrica thought about how difficult it was for her at this meeting, and then asks if her mom is okay. Mother replies that she is fine, and then explains that she is just tired. And at this time, the girl thought that maybe because of this her skin was slightly shiny, and although she is not the same as always, her mother is wonderful. The woman asks if mom has become very ugly. One daughter objects and says that her mother is the best in the world. Lyrica asks if mom was bitten by the inexhaustibles. The woman replies that she thinks there are insects in the room, and then he reports that mom is fine. However, the girl assures her that the marks are very red on her face, and the woman screaming says that she is fine. At this time, the girl thought that her mother was very embarrassed by insect bites, and yet she had to help her. Mother reports that during this time a response came from the Bharat family, and they gave the go-ahead to their request that Thyest Bharat teach her, and then Mother asks if she is sure that everything will be okay. Hearing this, Lyrica enthusiastically says that everything will be fine and reports that she is happy. After all, this means that they will see each other again. Mother asks if it is necessary to choose a new guard for Atul, and then he offers to change it for her at the same time. And she can choose herself, or she can ask the Knight Tang. At this time, the girl looked at her mother and thought that the meeting was incredibly tiring. The daughter says that she was told that her mother was with the emperor at the meeting all this time, and the lady explains that it was a one-sided meeting, and they still ended the conversation well. Lyrica understands that it must be hard for her mother to work all the time, but she immediately called her, and this is not like her past. At this time, a maid comes into the room and says that the princess has received a letter from the Bharats. The main character saw that the seal on the letter was in the shape of a flower. And at that time, I thought that this was the coat of arms, the ancestor of the family, and this means that Baratov's ancestor is a flower. At this time, the girl thought that it seemed to her that her feet had left the ground, and she doesn't understand why she's in such a strange mood, and she seems to want to fly up. Lyrica thought that these incredible railings appeared before her eyes just in time, and as if on purpose, there is no one nearby at all, and no one is looking at her. Bryn Sol asks the princess if she is going to slide down them. Hearing this girl asks if everything will be okay. Hearing this, the maid asks what might happen. The main character went down the stairs for the first time in her life, and at this time she felt new emotions, and it was much faster than she imagined because the staircase did not end, and it also had a sharp turn. At this time, the girl thought that she should not close her eyes at the very end. Suddenly she heard the voice of the emperor who said that she needed to watch the place where she would land until the very end, and at that time he grabbed the girl. The gentleman asks if this is dangerous. The maid replies that if it were not for His Majesty, she would have caught the girl. The emperor says that he did not know that the princess's duties also included cleaning the railings. Hearing this, the girl apologizes, and he asks what she is apologizing for. The main character explains that she slid down the railing, and he speaks for the fact that she cleaned up on them. The emperor explains that he is not interrogating her to make her confess to a bad deed, but simply asked because he really does not know what she is apologizing for. Lyrica gives him a letter, and he asks if she went to the empress, and then asks what kind of Bharat this is. The main character explains that she wants to call feared Bharata as a guest. Hearing this, His Majesty says that sometimes even he often wonders what is on the empress's mind. The princess addresses His Majesty and then asks how he liked the outcome of the meeting. Hearing this, the emperor does not understand what she is talking about and asks about it. The girl explains that she was told that he was holding a meeting with his mother. The gentleman says that he was very pleased, and then he asks if by chance she asked her mother the same thing. He wonders what she answered. Lyrica says that she said that they ended the conversation more or less well. The emperor heard this and grabbed the girl and invited her to speak honestly. The main character replies that her mother said it was a one-way meeting. At this time, Bryn looked at the emperor and thought that this answer greatly shocked him. His Majesty says that in this case from now on, he should try to conduct the meeting in such a way that both parties are satisfied. And then smiling, he leaves the room. The girl says that His Majesty is angry, but the maid objects and says that if he were angry, he would leave one of them or even both. And in any case, he thinks it's impossible for anyone to see this. When Lyrica entered her room, she thought that she looked like a guest in her own room because she saw the prince, and then asks where all her maids went. The guy replies that he kicked them out because they were bothering him with their walking back and forth. Hearing this, the main character thought that poor Bran, since he alone does the work of several servants, and then invites him to sit down more comfortably. The guy says that he thinks the maids will be scolded because their mistress is a princess, and because of the crown prince they cannot do their job. Having heard this girl, she says that Atil is a more important person than her. The main character understands that this means that initially it is impossible to do this, but he entered her room without permission and behaved there like the owner, and then asks if he knows that this is a matter of her authority. Hearing this, His Highness objects and then reminds her that she said they were family. The lyrics say he really looks like an emperor. Hearing this, Atil says that he never thought so, not in appearance but in behavior. And then he reports that it is immediately clear from his uncle that he is a foreigner, and with the blood of a native of the desert. And if you think about it, perhaps this is the only thing they have in common with their uncle. After all, he is an emperor with imprecise origins. Atil knows that his mother is not from a branch of the imperial family, and he is a crossbreed. The girl says that her mother told him to choose security for him. Hearing this, the guy objects and says that he doesn't need it. And then he says that the bastard who served him for 8 whole years wanted to kill him. Lyrica looks at the prince and says that she is worried about him. The prince reports that even if he chooses one, he may seem like the same bastard, and the girl offers to choose with her because in fact, she has a very good instinct. When he heard and the little lady suggests that he not make such a face since she already knows what he is thinking about, the main character explains that she is incredibly good at foreseeing bad things. And then she explains that it was actually the appearance of that bad guy that put her in a bad mood. The girl remembers that when she was little, a kind grandmother gave out candy to children, and all the kids liked her and they followed her. But for some reason, she was the only one who didn't like her, and so she did not take food from her and did not go after her. The lyrics invite them to imagine what happened next, and how it turned out that this grandmother was trafficking people. The main character reports that there was another guy who she didn't like but was popular with children, and he gave them pocket money for expenses. And later she heard that he treated the children badly. Having heard this prince says that he does not know for sure, but he thinks he starved them and beat them, and then asks if that's true. The princess says that one day she was left without a salary, and that means she avoided all the bad guys, except when she ignored her instincts, because she cannot choose the best, but she can avoid the worst. At this time, the prince sharply hugged the girl and this time suggests that she subtract 1 raspberry. The little lady talks about subtracting 2. As befits small children, she has a high fever and a small build. Even when angry, she is not scary at all, but sweet and weak. A long time has passed since serfs disappeared from the empire, only officially because they learned that formerly free people working on rented land are much more effective. Slavery may be illegal, but it still exists. Lyrica asks the prince if he will go with her to choose a guard, and the gentleman replies that he will go, but since he is busy today, he will go later. The prince orders to show the report on the capital's security for several years. At this time, the main character thought that she had forgotten to tell the prince that the first guest from outside would arrive to her. And judging by the emperor's reaction, he thinks it shouldn't be shown to just anyone in the palace. The girl thought that since Atil was her older brother, she wanted to tell him. Lately, Lyrica often goes to the library to draw up a project for a beautiful secret garden with a raspberry field and surprise Atil and return the key to him. The princess understands that she may need a professional gardener, but she also needs to know something, and he must be able to keep secrets, and so she learns. The main character reads one book after another, and suddenly she saw magical recordings that made the girl's hearts tremble, and this book interested her. Lyrica opened the book and saw a way to create a talisman for a loved one, and how to make it. The book says what to do if you want them to dream about their loved one. The main character thought that she just wanted to keep the secret, and therefore quietly borrow the book for a while, and just read everything and then return it. The girl realizes that she is so excited that she brought this book into her room. However, she reflects on the fact that these are magical recordings, and she does not understand why they are in the imperial palace in the first place. In the evening, when the girl was alone in the room, she was reading a book and thought that she would miss what she had read a little earlier. After all, she is interested in how to create a talisman for a loved one. The book says that it is possible to save the one she likes from danger. At this time, the girl thought about what needs to be done for Atilia's talisman, and for this you need a glass flask, clean water from a well, and a white scarf, as well as fresh medicinal herbs and zolotnik. Lyrica realizes that she has never seen a gold coin and wonders if there is a way to earn one. The main character thought that she wanted to get paid for cleaning His Highness's office, since she does it because she likes it. The girl remembered that she has UBA and she wants him to return safely. She prays to save him from danger and help him from being exposed to bad things, and also for his body to be intact, and for many, many good things to happen to him. Lyrica prays for help to get the spool. The next day, the emperor turns to the girl and invites her to buy something tasty, and then gives her a gold coin. His Majesty says that the girl is not energetic because she eats little. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that she ate 2 whole sausages in the morning, and the master says that's why she has nothing but bones. The emperor gives the girl jewelry and tells her to buy herself some treats and eat. Seeing this, the girl asks why he has jewelry in the box, and he replies that dragons like to accumulate mountains of jewelry. Lyrica informs His Majesty that her wallet will soon be torn. I heard the emperor stroking her head, and at that time she thought that these touches had become much softer than before, and she understands that although awkward, it is a confident expression of love. The princess looked at the gold coins, emeralds, and diamonds, and thought that today she was rich. The girl took a green emerald and says that it is just like a summer garden, and the sapphire is similar to the color of Atilius's eyes. The maid tells the princess that she also has a pearl that looks very high quality and is very beautiful. At this time, the main character thought that she had received a spool, and now she needs to look at the book and start preparing to make a talisman. When Lyrica looked under the pillow, she saw that the magical notes had disappeared, and the maid reports that she has the book she is looking for. Breen says the title on the cover was too loud, so she decided it would be better to change it, and she also says that she has no idea where she got the book. The maid says that the magical writings will make girls' hearts flutter, and this book was popular among young ladies several years ago. And in this book, she can find out how many boys have unrequited love for her with the help of flower fortune-telling. And also, with the help of the book, you can find out the compatibility of 2 people using fortune-telling by name. After all, these are about the same kind of cute children's fortune-telling. Everyone who should knows this book, and it literally says on the cover that she has someone she likes. Bryn turns to the mistress and says that she will take her secret with her to the grave, and therefore suggests that she has nothing to worry about. And at that time she thought that she couldn't believe that the princess already liked someone because she was worried whether she was too young for such a thing. The maid realizes that her princess is not like everyone else. Because she's smart, that person could also be an adult, and it could be the chancellor. And it couldn't be kids like young Master Sander or Bran. The maid turns to the princess and says that it will be difficult for her to complete the spell alone, and therefore she will help her, and then asks which one she was thinking about. Lyrica says she wants to make a talisman, and then he says that she was worried about the gold coin, but His Majesty gave her a whole bunch, and so now she thinks that everything is in order. The princess reveals that she will make it for Atul and His Majesty, as well as Bryn for her. Hearing this, the maid does not understand whether the princess really believes that this book contains a real magic spell, and she thought that their princess was cute and did not yet know what love was between a man and a woman. The maid hugs the princess and says that she will help her with everything, and at that time I thought that at this age it is enough for a little lady to simply receive love. The main character read a letter in which it was written that Feed could come to the palace at any time. Bryn claims that in this case she really had better find security as soon as possible. And at that time I thought that, most likely, he would not do stupid things to members of the imperial family right in the palace, but still, this is the same Bharat. The maid turns to the princess and says that she cannot meet with a guest from outside without security. Lyrica approached the prince and invites him to find himself a guard, and then he reminds him that she said she would choose it for him. The girl saw that the prince was tired and then asked if she should call him another day. Hearing this, Pai says that perhaps it would be better, and then he says that he doesn't know what kind of wind blew, but he suddenly wanted to review all the documents about order in the capital, and so they didn't sleep all night. The prince claims that this is some kind of nonsense, and then announces that he is ready to go. Athel turns to the princess and asks why she is walking behind, and he wonders if she is a servant. Lyrica explains that he's just fast, and that's why she can't keep up with him. However, the boy objects and says that she is the one who is slow, and then asks if she can ride a horse. The girl replies that she has never ridden a horse, or even seen people who do it. The princess says that you can meet horses while walking in the park, but she didn't have time. And then the young master claims that it would be better for her to learn to ride a horse. And then he takes the girl in his arms and says that now it's good to do this. The servant addresses His Highness and the princess, and then reports that the captain is still in the office, and that is why he is not here now. Hearing this, Atel believes that today they will not be able to choose a knight, and then suggests that they can come next time. However, the little lady objects and says that they will wait. At this time, the main character thought that if not this time, then next time the prince might change his mind. While they were waiting, the princess watched the knights, and at that time she thought that now she knew what the weapons of the Imperial Guard looked like. Suddenly, Lyrica saw a knight who found her on the street and brought her to her mother. She comes up to him and says that they have not seen each other for a long time. The knight greeted Her Highness the princess, and she asks if Tang happened to say anything about her. The guy remembered and said that he had already been told all this. The princess talks about him wearing civilian clothes and then asks if that means he's on vacation. The guy replies that he will go to his hometown. Hearing this, the girl thought that Lob was just like then, and at this time she thought that she had a strange feeling, and she doesn't understand why everything was fine until that moment. The main character doesn't understand what to do, and then she got excited. He saw the excited girl. Athel asks what this idiot told her. The girl objects and says that he understood everything wrong, and at that time, she thought that everything was in order because the young master was standing behind her, and she understands that maybe the problem is that he will go to his hometown. The princess turns to Laub and then asks if it is possible for him not to go there and invites him to become her escort knight. The guy was surprised when he heard this and then asks if she is serious. The girl explains that of course it's serious, and if he doesn't want to, then nothing can be done. At this time, the main character thought that the ringing had become quieter, and canceling his departure was the right answer. Laus reports that he is no longer a knight, and therefore, and at this time the girl says that even if not, and then asks if she can't just hire him. The princess says that she is not sure how much she can pay, but Atil asks in surprise why she would hire this idiot since he is Wolf, and judging by the fact that he was going to return, he is simply incompetent. At this time, a misunderstanding occurred between the guys, and the princess invites His Majesty to stand still, but he says that she simply doesn't know something. Lyrica turns to Laub and says that even if he is not a knight, and if he does not mind her paying, and then says that she wants to hire him. The girl shows him the pearl and says that this is his advance. And then he says that this is a very high-quality product, and it is incredibly valuable. And this is a super precious item that will cost incredible amounts of money. Lao says he will do it. And at this time, the main character thought that this unpleasant feeling had completely disappeared from her. Lyrica realizes that for the first time, she herself got rid of the sensation. The guy reports that he will serve her faithfully. And at that time, the girl could not think that she could change him. After all, it turns out that you cannot avoid this feeling, but change it. At this time, the main character thought that she felt completely safe. Tan wonders if anyone can explain to him what this situation is, and then he says that to begin with, the applicants can only be shown to His Highness the Crown Prince. Hearing this, the young master speaks about what Lyrica will choose, and the girl claims that she has good instincts. The young knights lined up and the main character looked closely at each of them. And then she pointed her finger at the two knights. The young master says that if she likes two people, she can hire them both. And then he says that it's good to work in shifts. Atil, if they are finished with everything, then he will go because business calls him. At this time, the main character thought that these other knights were not bad people. Well, they just didn't ring like Laub did, and they didn't seem like very good people. The commander of the Imperial Guard asks the princess if she knew that Laub left the knightly detachment today, and he wonders if everything was okay with him. Lyrica explains that everything was very bad because of the danger her back became covered in sweat. But it happened because of his words that he was going to his hometown. And when she hired him, everything became normal. Tan offers to listen to him and then says that she shares the same homeland with him, and then asks what happened there. And then he says that he could not even think that she would take him to her place. The knight suggests to the princess that if anything happens, she should tell him about it. And then he says that he will support her in absolutely everything. The captain of the Imperial Guard sincerely thanks the main character for hiring Laub. Hearing in this is the maid saying that he will actually support them. And since he is the head of the knights, this is very important for them. The main character understands that it is very rare for the head of a guard detachment to be completely on someone's side. At this time, the maid reflects on the fact that their princess, who as if nothing had happened, earns such connections, and she is cool. Pai addresses His Highness, and then asks why he is talking to the princess like this. Hearing this, the young master does not understand what he is talking about, and then asks. The boy explains that he is asking because he is saying things that might hurt her. However, the prince does not understand what and when he said it. Pai explains that he did this every day, and then remind her that earlier he had asked why she followed him like a maid, and then why she couldn't ride a horse. The blonde guy claims that this is all true, and if his original goal was to offend her, he would not have said anything. Well, since he hasn't slept for several nights, because of the princess's words alone, he invites him to think about what would happen if the princess spoke to him like that. Pai explains that the princess can address him as if he were walking in front of her as if he had become her master, and then asks if she really felt unpleasant. The blonde guy claims that the princess is kind and therefore simply missed his words. However, if he continues to behave this way someday, the young lady will be offended and therefore suggests the young master to be careful. Hearing this, Athel thought that he was wrong and would try to rectify the situation. Pai thinks that if he cares so much, he might as well give the princess a gift, and it's a pony with a beautiful creamy mane. The fair-haired guy says that the princess is still small, and therefore it seems to him that it would be good if she moved around the spacious garden of the Palace of the Sun on a horse. At this time, the main character informs Tan that a guest will arrive tomorrow. And then she says that she will drink tea for the first time, inviting a guest from outside, explains that she was in a hurry to choose a security knight. ATL reflects that he is sure that she will like this gift, and he also wants the weather to be good tomorrow, and this gift will only bring happiness. The next day, Feared arrived and greeted the highest Naratakar, and then he knelt and kissed the girl's hand. At this time, the main character thought that for the first time a guest from the palace came to her, and this was the son of a duke from the Barrett-Feared clan, and he came to teach her how to curtsy. And for the sake of this day some exchanged letters, and she hastily appointed a guard knight for herself. Lyrica therefore wanted to prepare properly without making mistakes. because their last meeting was incredibly incredible. The main character looked at the guy and thought that he had a truly luxurious appearance. And besides, he doesn't look as disheveled as he did that time, and now even in a suit. The princess asks the guy in surprise why he doesn't curtsy today. Feared explains that he is officially welcoming her because he did not think that she would actually invite him. The girl thanks the guy for agreeing to come. He asks the main character in surprise why she doesn't hire a knight from the guards detachment. And then he says that he is sure that they will talk about this behind their back. The guy reports that the aristocrats will be interested in why the princess could not assign a guardsman to her. And they will also say that she may be discriminated against because she is adopted. Hearing this, the main character says that even so, she does not cease to be Takar. And at that time, I thought that even though she was under contract, she was still a princess. Feared agrees with the girl and says that she is right, since the squeaking of mosquitoes means nothing to the dragon. The lyrics say that the dragon will also be very bothered by mosquitoes, and then says that if the question concerns the imperial family, then she knows almost nothing but thinks that His Majesty will deal with everything properly. The guy turns to the princess and says that she is incredibly simple-minded, and he cannot believe that Takar is saying this in front of a man from Bharat. And at that time, I thought that he was sure that if Duke Bharat had heard these words, he would have killed her, torn her apart. Feared turns to the girl and says that she still doesn't have a companion. Having heard this girl, she replies that she has Bryn. She tells the guy that she is a maid. The blonde guy says that a companion for a member of the imperial family is a person of about the same age with whom you can discuss the latest news of noble society or discord between families. Feared say that in this case, she should know and the rumors that are circulating. And her mother. Hearing this, the main character asks that she really got drunk again and did outrageous things, and she was caught doing it. And then she says that she knew that her mother would return to alcohol. The princess thought that her mother could not give up her habits. However, the boy assures her that this is not so. And then he points to the cake and says that this is a new dessert that did not exist before. Her Majesty the Empress made it popular. The guy says that besides him, all the desserts that appear in the Empress's salon attract sensational popularity for their noble, not too sweet taste and excellent compatibility with tea. And even their family's cook tries to repeat her recipes. Feared. That's not all, because they say that the style of the dress with flowing fabric of Her Majesty the Empress shown at the wedding also received an influx of orders in all the capital's ateliers, and he heard that if you order it now, you will have to wait 1 year. The young master says that he knows a few more. Then not long ago she put in her place one of the marquise's wives, who is known in noble society for her arrogance, and everyone was very happy. The guy says that the most surprising thing was that recently she calmed the mare on which the lady from Baron Aaron's family was galloping. And they say that if the Empress had not been there, something truly terrible would have happened. And he heard that the lady's fiancé thanked the Empress many times. Hearing this, the main character was surprised because she did not know so much information about her mother. And then she says that her mother is the most beautiful woman in the world, and she has become so affectionate that it even surprises her. The girl reflects on the fact that mother is after all mother, whom she must always look after. Feared asks the princess how about him as a companion. And then she reports that having talked with her in just a little bit, it becomes clear that she does not have someone with whom she can discuss everything. And for the sake of establishing a friendly connection with another family, or realizing one's desires from a family of aristocrats, in any case, for various reasons, they want to become companions of those in power. The princess says that apparently she does not yet have enough power, and that's why they don't offer her this, because she's not yet an emerging power. The guy heard this and didn't understand what she was talking about, and at that time, he thought that he almost said it out loud. And he understands that the fact is that only she herself cannot realize this, that the person so desired by everyone like the Empress is her. Feared reflects on the fact that Princess Lyrics is a girl who knows nothing at all. At this time, the main character thought that on the poor streets she was so busy with work that she did not have time to make friends. And at this time she does not understand what to do after she gathers her aristocratic friends. The girl understands that she really likes Bryn, but she is with her because the maid is close to her, and therefore does not play with her as a friend. The main character reflects that someday when she becomes an outstanding princess, there will probably be people who want to become her companions. Lyrica turns to the guy and asks him to teach her how to curtsy. After all, she understands that this will be the first step in becoming an outstanding princess. When the girl looked at the guy who was curtsying, she became interested in how one could greet so beautifully. And then he asks what Her Highness is thinking about when she curtsies. The girl replies that she is thinking about how far to bend her knees and the angle of the inclination, and whether it would be more elegant if she made it slower. Feared suggests putting an end to such confused thoughts. And then he says that she should think about what is most beautiful in this world. At this time, Pai asks the master if it is possible to go to the girl's room like this without warning. Hearing this, His Majesty says that he is interested, and then asks when he warned about this. The prince says that he said he would prepare a gift, and he believes that he doesn't do this often, and therefore he needs to surprise Lyrica. Hearing this, Pai thought that His Majesty definitely did not come to apologize for the thoughtlessly spoken words, and first wanted one thing and then another. Teal, I'm sure that the princess will really like the gift. At this time, Feared invites the girl to repeat that she is the most beautiful in the world, and then the little lady reluctantly repeats after him. The young master looked at the girl and said that it seemed to him that she did not believe in it at all. And the princess answers because it is not so, and she understands that she does not have such beautiful blonde hair as her mother. However, Feared, she claims that the princess is beautiful, and with hair the color of wood, she looks like a fairy of the forest. And her eyes are like Lake Rudin, whose surface reflects the sunlight. The guy turns to the little lady and says that this is why she can be confident, and then invites her to try again, screaming that she is the most beautiful in the world. Lyrics repeats after him, and at this time thinks that this is a new type of torture. After all, she didn't think that she would say such a thing in front of a person who was more beautiful than her. Feared believes that the princess will curtsy to few people anyway, and then maybe she has a reason why she needs to learn him like this. The main character explains that all this is because she wants to show it to those very few. And at this time, she introduces her mother, who says that her daughter is really elegant, and the emperor reports that he did not expect it, and now he is pleased to look at it. The little princess thinks that she is not beautiful, and in this world, she is the sweetest and most charming, and she understands that this also confuses her, but she still considers herself cute. And she hears these words every day when she talks to her mother. The princess says that she can do it because she is sweet and beautiful, and then curtsies. The girl looked at the guy and then asked in surprise if she had done something strange. The boy replies that she looked like a robin, and then the lovely Princess Robin calls her. The little lady looked at the guy and said that he looked like a handmade silver item. Feared reports that he really wants to become her companion. Bryn comes into their room and says that they must be having a hard time, so she offers to drink the cold juice she just made. At this time, the prince enters the room and suggests to the servants that he need not notify that Her Highness has arrived. The atelier opens the door and he saw the princess together with the guy. Feared greets His Highness the Crown Prince. And at this time, Atel asks what this bastard is doing here. The guy explains to His Highness that he received an invitation, and the lyrics confirm his words and say that it was she who invited him. The prince angrily asks how he dared to seduce his younger sister, and he wonders if he wiggled his tail in front of her and cajoled her with his pretty face and sweet words. Feared explains that the princess was the first to ask him to come to her, and the prince heard this and pushed him. When Lyrica saw that, she wanted to go and calm the prince, but Lore restrains her and says that she shouldn't approach him at this time. Athel invites the guy to disappear before he wants to check whether those same rumors are true, and then calls him Baratov's masterpiece. At this time, the main character thought that everything was shaking in the room, and she assumed that it was an earthquake. Suddenly she realized that it was not the floor that was shaking, and as if objects were reacting to something, and she doesn't know what it is, but she understands that this is impossible. Lyrica turns to the prince and asks him to stop doing this, since she invited this guest. The girl reveals that she will not forgive him if he continues to be rude to Feared. The princess claims that she is responsible for Feared's safety, and therefore she asks His Highness to leave the room. Athel asks the little lady if she even knows who this idiot is. At this time, Bryn turns to His Highness the Crown Prince and says that this is the White Dragon's room and the princess's place of residence, and therefore she asks for forgiveness for interfering in the conversation of respected gentlemen, but she can no longer tolerate rude treatment of the princess. The prince says that if she likes him so much, then she can do as she knows and then leaves. Lyrica thought that she was scared because she did not think that Atil would decide to punch him. The girl turns to Feared and asks if he is okay, and then she says that she will order a doctor to be brought right away. However, the boy assures her that it is nothing serious, and she does not need to call a doctor. The guest reports that what is more important to him is whether Her Majesty is okay, madam. And then he says that because of him, the princess had a strong quarrel with His Highness. Feared asks if he was one of the people she wanted to curtsy to, and then smiles. At this time, the main character looked at the guy and thought that he was smiling as if everything would be perfect if he just repaired the broken parts. And then the girl says that a simple verbal quarrel does not make them enemies, and it is obvious that Atil did the wrong thing. But since he is her guest, she must take care of him. Lyrica invites the guy to sit down and then says that if he doesn't want to call a doctor, then she will simply smear some medicine on his wound. Feared looked at the girl and thought that this was the first time he had seen her like this, since she was quite a little angry, and then asks if the princess is okay. The guy says that nothing bad happened because during training, you can get even worse. Hearing this, the girl objects and says that this is not training, and being beaten is painful and scary. The main character recalls that previously, in order to protect the person dear to her, she could not do anything except pray to the Lady Star for her desire. However, the girl understands that now everything is different, since she dominates the room of the White Dragon. And, of course, with great power comes great responsibility, but she allowed this to happen to her guest. Lyrica thought that she did not want and would not allow Feared to leave just like that. And then it is reported that even if he says that everything is fine, she does not like it at all. Feared invites the princess to listen to this, and then says that in his world, such wounds mean nothing at all. After all, Baratov's receivers are trained to endure absolutely any pain, and only in the forest of the imperial palace can they rest at the roots of the family. The guy says that she flew there on her luxurious and heavy umbrella. And then he says that everyone says that this girl may turn out to be a villain, and she is rootless from the poor streets and may actually turn out to be an aristocrat. And the Lord also says that it is impossible to bewitch a cruel tyrant in this way, only if she is not a villain, because everyone knows that the couple of a tyrant is a villain, and the daughter of a villain is also a villain. Feared believes that he knew that everything around him was a lie. After all, as a child, he believed in all such statements, because for a small child, parents are everything, and he thought that the blame for all his torment actually lay with him. The guy remembers that when he opened his eyes, his mother told him that Crown Prince Atil was to blame for all his torment, Thakar, and he is the reason why he experienced the torment and death of his father, and therefore it seemed that it was all because of him, and so he hated the prince incredibly much. However, on the 10th birthday, and on the day of the Crown Prince's desk, when he first saw him, his mother said that this was his enemy. Hearing this, a feigned laugh burst out from Feared, and although in reality he could not laugh because of the fear of his mother, a simple child whose eyes were filled with excitement, and his body was shaking with anger, and a look that pierces the inside of his soul like a mirror. The guy remembers that he then found out that it was not this little boy who was causing him the torment, and he was wondering who was causing it all. Feared reflects on the fact that the reason for his torment, due to the desire to become Tokar, is due to the desire to become the best, and she even entered into the so-hated Bharat family of direct relatives of dragons. The boy says that his mother was very happy when she gave birth to her son because she wanted to stop gaining power. And I thought that finally the Bharats would be able to become the best. And then the doctor told her that her son was a masterpiece for which the family had been waiting for hundreds of years. Mother all this time insisted that the moon of the empire be chosen from their family, but they made such rootless ones empress and princess, and also gave such despicable people the name Takar. Feared says that when this masterpiece broke, he wondered what kind of expression his mother had on her face. And therefore, the little princess most likely does not know what great hopes he had for her. because this was the first time he saw the man his mother hated so much. The guy says that he heard that the enemy of his enemy is a friend, and he was looking forward to seeing how incredible she was. The blonde guy says that when they met in reality, to be honest, it was not what he expected and thought that his mother had deceived him again. And he doesn't care why she interests him and thinks it will be good to meet him one more time. Feared reflected on the fact that he felt that this choice was a mistake, and those eyes of hers which he saw right in front of him were so pure that they seemed transparent, and her fingertips were meltingly warm. Lyrica reports that everything is ready and then asks if he was in much pain. The guy replies that everything is fine and explains that he is used to the fact that in their estate, no one will be bothered even by a blow with his fist. Suddenly, the young master smelled a strange, too sweet smell, and then he took the girl by the hand and told her not to come close to him or touch him. And at that time, he thought that his fingertips were numb and his head became hot, and he could not think about anything. The main character thought that after the conflict with Attilius Feared, then left with a big smile on his face, I also wished her a good day. At this time, the girl thought that she did not understand why Atil hated Feared to such an extent, and given his reaction, she thinks they shouldn't be dating anymore, and she doesn't understand why this case makes her worry. Lyrica asks the prince why he hates Feared hearing this. He says that she is asking this directly from the person who came to apologize and then tickles her cheeks. Atil says that if he dies, that idiot will take the place of the emperor. Hearing this girl asks the prince not to die. However, he calms her down and says that he is not going to die. His Highness explains that his dead father was his uncle, and aside from him, this idiot is the closest to the imperial palace. And besides, the Bharats have been connected with the palace through the Bharats since ancient times. And if this is considered from the point of view of legitimacy, then he may be even closer to him, because his mother was barely considered an aristocrat. I heard Pai object and say that now Princess Lyrica comes next after him. The surprised girl says that she just needs to become a family with the Takars, but she doesn't even have that kind of influence. Pai explains that it is best to be a Thakar with influence, but still the most important thing is to belong to this family. Hearing this, the main character enthusiastically says that this means she is now second. At this time, the servant reports that he has come and brought a pony with him, and His Highness turns to the princess and says that this is her gift. At this time, the main character thought that now she understands why he told her to come in a convenient form. Athel apologizes for yesterday and then reveals that he was rude to her guest. The lyrics convey that she has already forgiven him and thanks him for apologizing. The prince asks the girl what she will name her gift. The main character looked at the pony and said that she had a star on her forehead, and therefore she would give her the name Venus. The prince invites the girl to try to ride her. Lyrica says that she has never tried it and is even a little scared. Atil puts the girl on the pony, and then says that when she tries, she will immediately learn, and then the little horse galloped off with the princess. Pai says that they remembered that Bharat was pushed aside because of the princess. Then most likely in their family, this was immediately understood, because they are serious about the throne, and therefore if the Bharat family wants to take the throne now, they will have no choice but to get rid of the princess. The guy says that if you think about it again, there is an option to marry Feared with the princess, and the Duke will not just leave it like that, and Pai only made an assumption, and then asks if he agrees because politically it was a great move. Athel claims that he is mistaken, and they will probably be afraid that the Bharat's blood will be stained. At this time, Lore invites the princess to straighten her back and says that she can speed up a little. Lyrica asks him why he interrupted her yesterday when she was stopping a fight between them. Lore explains that this is because he decided that it was dangerous, and I thought that after that, they would definitely accept her desire to reconcile them. Lore says that if she had tried to stop them from the very beginning, His Highness the Crown Prince would have been even more angry. Hearing this, the girl asks why, and he replies that His Highness loves her very much and believes that she is on his side, and he wouldn't tolerate it if she took the other person's side. But after they exchanged blows, they most likely calmed down a little. The lyrics suggest that since the fight started in the White Dragon's room, she had to do it anyway, and then asks what would be the best thing to do. Lore reports that at such moments she can use it, and if she told him to figure it out, he would do it no matter how. The princess says that he is her guarda knight, and then he asks if it's possible to ask him for such a thing. Lore claims that he still wants to become not only her shield, but also her sword. At this time, the main character thought that she couldn't believe that adults were speaking to her so carefully. And she understands that she is still a child, and therefore usually they are always quite free in expressions with her. The girl understands that her guard is very cautious, and perhaps because she has not yet treated him in a friendly manner. And in fact, she brought Laub only to get rid of an unpleasant feeling, and could not even think that she and Bryn were close. And maybe he also knows about it, and that's why he's so careful. Lyrica asks Laub for forgiveness, and then says that he did a good job, and says that from now on, she will consider him her sword and shield. And if she has any difficulties, she will definitely call him. At this time, the young guy thought that perhaps an outstanding princess is not the one who does everything well on her own. And then he says that he will return even from the end of the world for her sake. Laub thought that this is the little lady who believes and relies on loved ones, and also knows how to think and make wise decisions. When the princess returned to the palace, the service announced that Her Majesty the Empress had arrived. I heard that the girl was happy. Mother says that as soon as she heard that the Knight of Lyra had been chosen, she came to her. And then she angrily thought, who dared to put this next to her daughter? Mother explains that she came because she wants to tell her something. And then she says that the chosen new knight is not suitable for her, and reports that she has a more suitable candidate in mind. At this time, the woman thought that Laub Wolf was a brat, who in a past life for some reason, was excluded from the knightly detachment, and after returning to his homeland, went crazy there, and then found himself the target of bounty hunters, and died. The lady reflects on the fact that she does not know the reason for what happened. The then head of the family, Tan Wolf, abandoned his post as head of the knightly detachment and left for the province, and the Barats thought it was just nonsense entertaining everyone, and didn't even bother to inquire about the reason. And she doesn't understand how they dared to introduce such a monster to her daughter. The Empress explains to her daughter that Mommy wants to choose a guard for her herself. However, the little lady objects and says that she would like Laub to continue to protect her. At this time, the mother thought that her daughter had refused her, and she did not understand why Lyrica, who had always dutifully followed her words, suddenly behaved this way. The Empress asks for forgiveness, and then says that she is worried about her daughter since this man is not even a knight, and she does not understand why he is next to her. The lyrics say that she understands what her mother is talking about, and then states that she is taking Lauba. This woman was surprised when she heard because her daughter believes this damn monster more than her. And at that time I thought that this wouldn't work, and she had to be more decisive. Mother reports that she herself will exchange him for another person, and she will do all this for her sake. Having heard this, girl invites her mother to listen to her. The woman says that if her daughter doesn't listen to her, then she doesn't like her, and then she turns around and leaves. At this time, Bryn asks for forgiveness and turns to Her Majesty the Empress, and then asks if the princess can at least hear the reason why she is doing this. Hearing this, the woman thought that her Lyrica was still stronger than she thought, and she knows that her daughter still cannot trust her completely because given what she did, it is obvious, and trust will accumulate and appear in the future if you start working on it right now. The Empress asks that despite this, she still believes that her mother cannot be relied upon, and at that time I thought that all this torment was only for her sake, but she didn't even understand it. Mother recalls her past life in which she turned to her daughter and said that this was all for her sake. What difference does it make that the Count is over 70 years old and claimed that her daughter is stupid? After all, she doesn't understand that she will become the wife of the Count himself, and the woman says that this is incredible because Lyrica Vance is from poor areas and the wife of a Count, and she does not understand how such success could be achieved. And then he asks if it weren't for her mommy then, who would have diligently taken care of her future. Mother claims that mom's success is her success, and her success is her mother's success. And if with the help received from the Count as a result of the marriage arrangement of military force, they succeed in the coup and seizing power in the Duchy of Berat, will no longer be a distant dream. At this time, the Empress thought that although she says that she loves her and hugs and kisses her and wears good clothes and feeds her good food, her behavior has not changed, and she is now exactly the same as in her previous life. Lyrica turns to her mother and asks if she is okay. The woman asks her daughter if she will talk to her a little alone, and then she says that she will not force her knight to leave only at her request. Mother, turning to her daughter, says that most likely she also has thoughts on this matter, but she put too much pressure on her opinions. The Empress asks if Lyrica can tell her why she chose Laub and why she wants to continue to be with him. Hearing this, the main character asks for forgiveness and then says that she made a mistake and acted like a fool again. Mother claims that she does not want to do this, but does not understand why she allowed her to hurt her. And at that time, I thought that she decided to change everything this time. After all, understand that various little things actually change according to her wishes, but she doesn't understand why being a mother is so hard. The Empress reflects on the fact that she had already begun to think that she was doing a good job, but again, she acted like a fool. And I've already thought a little that maybe she's not so bad, but she understands that this is not at all true. Mother says that she loves her daughter very much, and she is dearer to her than anyone in the world. At this time, I thought that at least this time she wanted to see with her own eyes how she would become an adult and loved and like a flower blossoming under the rays of the sun. The Empress claims that even if she leaves her because she hates her, and even if she doesn't listen to her and starts creating problems, her mother will continue to love her. And at that time, I thought about what she needed to do to become a good mother. The woman thought that she shouldn't cry like that in front of the child now, and then she says that no matter what happens, she will never hate her. Then she asks for forgiveness because her mother is crying and looks very pitiful at this time. Lyrica turns to her mother and says that she loves her very much, and no matter what happens, she will not leave her, and then hugs her. The daughter suggests not saying that she hates her mother because it makes her sad to hear it. The Empress apologizes for not being able to understand her feelings a little better. And then she says that she always regrets that she is such an imperfect mother. After all, her daughter didn't do anything wrong, and if anyone is to blame, it's her stupid mother. Mother thought that this unscrupulous wolf family was to blame, and since things went like this time, she was obliged to extract the maximum benefit from them. At this time, the Emperor came to the Empress's room and saw that she was crying, and I thought that she was so weak to cry because someone was torturing her. Thakar reports that he heard that something happened to Lyrica during the day, and then asks if they are done yet. She replies that they settled everything, and her daughter was satisfied. And at that time I thought that she had allowed Laub to continue to guard her. The Emperor claims that she opposed it because it was dangerous, but she easily agreed. The young lady explains that it is because she wanted to respect Lyri's opinion, and besides, she heard from her the reason that she has a good feeling. The Empress says that if you think about it, even when they lived in poor areas with their family, nothing very bad ever happened, and even considering that she walked the streets drunk. And there were still no troubles, and for her this is surprising. The woman says maybe that's why she was convinced by her daughter's words, and she decided to believe her and let her do it the way she wanted it. The Empress explains that she was truly scared because she was very worried and afraid that that brat would harm her daughter. And that's why I got angry with her, because I was very afraid. The young lady doesn't understand why as soon as she stands in front of Lyrica, she can't control her emotions. And then she remembers that she asked her daughter if she wanted her mother to lose her again and wander in the dark. The woman is worried because she cannot believe that she took out her anger on the one for whom she was worried, and therefore she hates herself. His Majesty reassures her and says that people are all like that, and even if they are scared and sad or disgusted, they get angry. And that's why almost all people live and only later realize their real emotions. And then he claims that although she looks at them objectively, it's funny for him. The Emperor says that this is a virtue, and if she gets angry when she is scared, she is in a better position than the enemy. However, the woman objects and says that her daughter is not her enemy, and it seems to her that she doesn't know her own daughter at all. The woman understands that she has only now learned that she almost cannot go out with the sun umbrella she was given as a gift, because it is heavy, and then claiming that one cannot become a parent like him, Alteos. The Emperor touches the lady and says that she is truly fearless and is not afraid of him at all. And then he reveals that she is not ordinary, because some people think the most important thing is that he is a dragon and think that he will simply break his promise and kill them, and he believes that such people also exist. The lady tells him to stop treating people like that already, and then she says that since she got everything she should from the wolf family, she needs to stop crying. After all, she understands that they assigned a dangerous man to her daughter because of their family, and so she asked to make Diare Wolf Leary's friend. Hearing this, the emperor was surprised, and then said that he did not even know whether she was generous or otherwise. At this time, Mother thought that Diara Wolf was known in a past life for her unusual character, and that she was a knight with abilities that were among the top 3 in the empire. And she is the one who, for the first time in decades, uses the wolf family's treasure, the Fang artifact, and she will not stop being angry if such a great man is presented to Lyra. His Majesty claims that her daughter is definitely generous, and the lady confirms his words and says that it's because she's the coolest and sweetest in the whole wide world. The woman says that these thoughts often visited her, and probably this is the advantage of a person. And she understands that no matter how sad and painful it is now, someday it will pass. And if you think that joy, peace, and happiness will come later, then you will be able to survive any marking even with difficulty. The emperor heard this and said that such words would suit Lyrics, and his wife says that she also thought so and apparently learned this from her daughter. And probably this is good, because in any case, he is an emperor who can put aside hatred of people from enjoying the present, and people also have good sides. She says that she herself cannot believe this. At this time, the emperor grabs her by the waist and says that he knows one advantage from becoming a human. At this time, the main character looks at her gold coins and reflects on the fact that a lot has happened today. And she was really very exhausted, but on the other hand, she again felt the importance of those around her and love for them. Lyrica reflects on the fact that she still has to look after her mother, and she can't believe that she cried like a little child. And the girl also understands that if her mother does this anywhere, she will be mistaken for a simpleton. The main character hopes that all the people dear to her will not get sick and will become even happier. And then she turns to Miss Fairy and asks her to give her strength and protect the people dear to her. The next day, Pi informs the prince that Lyrica gave him the amulet. Athel heard this. He says that it is too childish, but he will take into account her efforts and accept it. However, Pi says he doesn't say it convincingly. Laub says with admiration that his head suddenly began to spin, and he doesn't understand what to do if he suddenly breaks the one-of-a-kind silver amulet that the princess made especially for him. And then he thanks the princess and says that he will treasure him. The empress was also happy when she learned that Lyrica had made the amulet for her and said that it would protect her. His Majesty also received a gift from Lyrica which will protect him. The emperor turns to his wife and says that she is leaving in such a radiant form in the opera house, and everyone will just look at the empress and will not be able to concentrate on the performances. The wife replies that he remembers her schedule well, and he explains that this is all because a beautiful woman follows him. At this time, Lyrica was watching them and thought that they were married under a contract, and she knows that now she is only playing the role of a couple with a good relationship. But she also knows something else. Her Majesty asks her husband if he will go for a walk with her. The emperor replies that he will not be able to go since he postponed his business and went out for a short time to see off his dear wife. He also says that he is starting to worry, thinking that by letting such a beauty out all alone, the empress assures her that she will eventually return to him again. At this time, the main character thought that they really seemed to have stepped out of the pages of some fairy tale about a prince and princess, and you can only look at them with delight. The emperor looked at the lyrics and asked if she had made that amulet, and then he takes her hand and tells the servants not to follow them. His Majesty explains that this garden is only for the imperial family, and even the closest servants cannot enter it, and he thinks that it will be more convenient for them to talk in a deserted place. The surprised girl asks if His Majesty is a magician, and he objects, and also says that it is approximately something similar. The emperor reveals that he has the power of the dragon race. Hearing this, the girl says that now she understands what it is. And then she says that she thought he was freezing people. His Majesty invites Lyrica to tell her how she made the amulet for her mother. The princess invites him to listen and then says that this is real magic since the spool shines in a special way, and Bryn, when she saw it, was also surprised. His Majesty says that this is really magic, and then asks who knows except Saul that she used magic. The girl replies that only Bryn knew and she has magical records because she helped her create the amulet. The emperor says that not everyone can use magic just because they have the right book, and if other people find out, then nothing good will happen. And she invites Lyrica not to talk about this to anyone else, and she should also return this book to its place. His Majesty says that although this book itself has no powers, its existence creates problems, and it is incredibly dangerous to want to change people's feelings with the help of magic. The emperor reports that now in this world only 3 types of creatures are capable of using magic. Living on the edge of the world and having made a deal with the original spirit, the people about whom legends are made are the dragon and the first great people who turned back time and distorted space. But they lost their homeland, mixed with the wild animals of these lands, and became extinct. At this time, the emperor thought that although Lyrica showed an ability for magic, she probably did not have as much power as the great archmages of the past. Until now, very rarely were people born who adopted their genes and had a penchant for magic, but all of them could only correct or improve something big. And His Majesty understands that the power manifested through the consciousness of something with the help of such a children's book, and then he tells Lyrica that he will teach her magic. The princess was surprised when she heard this, and then asks if he will tell her about her, and she wonders when they will start. The emperor replies that they will look at it in time, and at that time he thought that he couldn't believe that this child was a magician. And if you think about it, she has all the signs of a magician, and she is strong and kind at heart. The gentleman looks at the princess and asks why she appeared now and why it was her. And then he says that he is now confused. Lyrica looked at the emperor, but suddenly he disappeared. And at this time she thought that he could move with the help of magic, and for her this was incredible. However, she does not understand how she can get out of there. After all, she is in a labyrinth, and for her, this is a disaster. The girl saw the roof of the palace and thought that no matter how much she walked, she was not getting any closer, and the road stopped again. And at that time I thought that if a fairy appeared at such moments, she would help her and lead her to the exit. However, the main character understands that this cannot happen, and she does not understand where she can get the strength to wander through this labyrinth. Suddenly, Lyrica saw Feared and was surprised, and then asked why he was here. An hour ago at Borat's Feared estate, after going to the courtyard of the sun at the invitation of the princess, he began to think about her, and he understands that she is a child who is 4 whole years younger than him. But he always remembers her deep green eyes and wants to see them again. The young master understands that if he wanders around the garden of the imperial palace, he will not meet her again like that time. And he thinks that if he meets Prince Athil, he will definitely die. When Feared saw the empress who was heading to the Bolshoi theater, he thought that he could act according to plan, and to begin with, he wants to go to the imperial palace and understands that it is dangerous, and believes that he will not be noticed if he walks through the personal garden of the imperial family where almost no one enters. Feared screams and asks why Princess Lyrica is in this garden. The girl explains that she came with the emperor but got lost, and then asks why he is here. And he says that this garden is only for the imperial family, and he cannot be here. The guy says that he will show her a shortcut to get out of here. And at this time, the main character thought that although she wanted the fairy to show her the way, there was not much wrong. The blonde guy ran very quickly, and the girl says that she can't keep up with him. Feared reports that there is no time and therefore invites her to listen on the way. At this time, the main character thought that it was incredible that there was such a forest in the emperor's family's garden. The guy says that he must give her some information, and at that time the girl saw an open space and thought that from this place you could see the entire capital. Feared reports that the Bolshoi theater is scheduled to catch fire today, and as soon as she gets out of here, she will have to tell other people about it. Suddenly they saw smoke, and the girl thought that it was already late. The boy turns to the princess and invites her to quickly leave the garden. The girl falls to the ground and says that her mother went there and she saw the fire, and it was very strong, and at this time she does not understand what to do, and she assumes that mom may die in this flame, and she has no one but her. The lyrics cry and say that if there is no mother, then she will not. Hearing this feared screaming suggests that she come to her senses and reports that now is not the time for this. The guy calms the girl down and says that if the flame is so big, then he is sure that the capital's garrison left immediately from there, and therefore he is sure that nothing will happen to Her Majesty the Empress. Feared led the girl to the exit and reports that he cannot go further and invites her to run away. On the way, Lyrica saw the prince and he calms the girl down and says that her mother will return safe and sound, and he hopes for this. And then they got into the carriage and drove to the theater. Lyrica ran out of the carriage and saw her mother. And then she ran up to her and asked if she was okay and wasn't hurt. The Empress replies that she is fine, and then reveals that she did not think she would see them here. And then he turns to His Majesty and says that he injured his leg, and it was a truly huge fire. The Emperor says that he is lucky because it started to rain, and rather, his wife is also lucky because she has a husband like him. At this time, the prince thought that he knew that this rain was caused by His Majesty, and it is unknown how many people would have suffered if the Empress had not been there. And she held on until the very end and helped people get out, and it was very dangerous. The Emperor suggests that he quickly go to the palace, however his wife objects and says that he cannot just leave. Lyrica saw her mother's injured leg and says that she shouldn't get up, however her mother calms her down and says that she is fine. And then she turns to the Emperor and says that it is difficult for her to stand on her own, and therefore offers to support her. Her Majesty claims that she cannot miss the chance to improve the image of the imperial court because of some wounds on her legs, and at that time I thought that their contract should be worked out conscientiously. At this time the prince thought that the Empress was wounded, but she saved the people and did not even immediately return to the palace, but held the whole ceremony there. And he understands that tomorrow there will be a stir in every newspaper, and the authority of the imperial court will definitely increase. Mother invites Lyrica to return quickly, and then says that she will go after. She helps put everything in order there, and she says that she cannot do anything because it is too dangerous, and she has only one night, and therefore she must leave as soon as possible. Inside the dazzlingly shining landscape, receiving universal love, stood the Emperor and Empress, as if they had stepped out of a painting and were praised by the happy people. The main character recalls that when her mother lost consciousness from drinking alcohol, she always had to take care of her and had to earn money for housing and food investing, in personally checking everything. And she always hugged her when she repeated that she loved her, and her mother blamed herself and cried. Lyrica understands how incredible her mother is. In all these rumors, she cannot be left without her, and she was obliged to be there and help. The girl looked at her standing mother with the Emperor and thought that right now she would thank her for everything she had done so far. And now she will be able to cope with everything, even if she is not around. The main character understands that now her mother does not need her help. In the evening, the Empress lying in her bed says that she cannot sleep, and the Emperor claims that this is not surprising after what happened during the day, and then asks if she wants to have a drink. The wife asks in surprise if he doesn't know that she was addicted to alcohol, and then says that she thinks her daughter was very scared today and all she did was cry all the time. And at that time I thought that my daughter still couldn't trust her. Suddenly the Empress saw His Majesty, who was holding a candle in his hands and saying that it was too dark for a person, and then asks her if she is afraid of fire. The woman says that she is not at all happy to tell someone her weakness, and then explained that usually this did not affect her in any way in life, and therefore she thought that she had overcome fear. But as it turns out, this was not so. The lady recalls that the fire grew so quickly and furiously that it was as if someone had arranged everything in advance, and just like that, time flames engulfed everything around, and she knew that today there would be a fire at the Bolshoi Theater, and therefore she fully prepared herself a ternary dress for the day. The Empress recalls that in a past life on Alteos, she was invited by contract to the Bolshoi Theater, and on the same day there was a fire, and she headed to the theater, full of confidence that everything would be different, because she knows the future. As soon as she saw the flame, her body froze, and she could not move. And at this time the Empress realized that she had not yet been able to change her fate, because the flame was like a fire across a bridge for execution. At that time, she understood that she couldn't just leave Lyrica alone.